How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, this is going to be interesting. Hello, Snowy Space 9. Kikiji! How's it going, Minecraft? Antonio, how's it going? Thank you. I will take the king statements. You gotta lock in 05. This is based in solo work against. So you see, 05, you're not dealing with the average Zimzilla anymore. Viewers beware, you're in for a scare. Oh, isn't that from something? Or like you're riffing on something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but hello, everyone. Welcome in. I thank you all for joining us. This is an pretty early Zimcast, but it's just sort of the nature of the beast. I do this primarily when I am able to, and not much else. So it also worked out too because it was a Tuesday. I didn't have any work. And as a result, I had time to host a debate, and I gave my debate opponent enough time to prep for this. I'm going with essentially zero prep because I'm not confident in it. And I gave him the option to choose what the debate topic is, as well as obviously the time. So all we now do is await his arrival. And if he doesn't show up, then oh well, it's another duck. Because yeah, I personally, when it comes to my philosophy on things like this, debates and the like, I want to always have an open discussion with anyone. So this is not specific to this specific individual. Anyone can ask to do like a solo debate with me live. I know there are two people who want to do some more mock debates with me in private to refine their debates for future streams. So that's going to be fun. And I like doing those because ultimately I like being able to play devil's advocate for a side that I don't necessarily agree with. But if I'm not on one side or the other, I at least like to see what both sides like to say when it comes to their opinions on these matters. So, yeah. And we got Davik in the house. Is it okay if I could show up on the stream? Unfortunately, this is going to be a solo stream. Probably after like maybe an hour or two, we might bring some people on after the debate is kind of settled, as it were. But yeah, I will definitely let people on once we get to a certain point. And for anyone who is watching right now, next stream that's gonna be Wednesday night stream. I'm gonna want to do a format where I show off some art from people at the start of the stream. So if you are someone who wants to show off some art that's kaiju related, whether it's your own kaiju, Godzilla fan art, etc., definitely join the Discord and then put it in the stream submissions tab. And we'll probably do one upload per person, and I think it will do as like a first come first serve kind of scenario where I'll probably do 5 different pieces. We'll talk about them, and if the person's in the chat for those, then if you want to come on and talk about them real quick before a stream starts, we can do that. And yeah, because I like showing off stuff that's going on in the community. It's fun like that. But for anyone who isn't a part of the Discord already, we'll put in the chat right there. And a rare case of him coming on. I thank you for being here. We got the Eric Zilla 1999, of course. How's it going, my man? Convoy, what's up? What's up? I do see you. This is our challenger for the day. So that's fun. Let's get this started. I'm pretty interested in this debate. So we'll welcome Godzilla 2005, aka Mokelia Mbembe is based. Welcome to the stream.
Hello.
Awesome. You sound fine on our end. I might just adjust you a little bit. Like settings. Okay. We've got you situated, and of course the topic is Shusuke Kaneko does not understand Godzilla or Gamera, and since this was your idea, post it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the director of Shusuke Kaneko understands both Godzilla and Gamera. Admittedly, I do love his movies. They're well written, they're fun, they have amazing special effects, especially for the budget that they were given for, and their soundtracks kick ass. It's just that I do have a big problem with how he portrays Godzilla in Gamera. For Gamera's case, Gamera is well, he did start it off as a destructive beast in the original film. He changed for the better by becoming a near pure good hero in the Showa era. Of course, however, they changed this because Kaneko doesn't like Gamera, so he decided to turn him into basically the kaiju equivalent of Snyderverse Superman or Bayverse Optimus Prime. He's now killing people and doesn't care. He's mercifulness. He brutally kills his opponents out of malice and for vengeance. He doesn't. Okay, that's not to say the original Showa Gamera didn't kill, but it was not out of malice, but because those kaiju's were like pure evil in what they were doing, and he was doing it to protect humanity. But here, he's just doing it because they think it looks cool. It's a big problem, especially in the third film. It's not that much of a huge problem in the first or second movie, even if it's still there, but it's a big problem in the third movie. As for Godzilla in GMK, he is in the original 1954 film. Godzilla is a tragic figure where he never asked to be mutated in the first place. So, but and so but he still has determination to survive in this world that's no longer his. He he took down ships around Tokyo Bay. He either thought they were a rival to him, or he thought they were a easy food source for him. So just he proceeded to like attack them for territorial dispute, and that unknowingly first caused conflict between him and humanity. And then later on, Godzilla goes on to shore in both Oda Island, and he feels humans disturbing him, and so he goes back into the water. And then later on at Tokyo Bay, he goes on to land to get some air simulation, but of course he got oh, what's the word? He got uh what's the word? Um he got disturbed when touching the fence extension tower wire things, and that made him angry. Later on, he proceeded to destroy the entirety of Tokyo the next day, and unfortunately for him, he was killed with the oxygen destroyer from Dr. Sarazawa. While both and none of them are the hero or villains here because they're both portrayed as tragic figures in the original film. And that's what I really love about that film so much. And of course why I like the Heisei Godzilla and why I think he's the true why the Heisei era feels like a true continuation of the original 54 film. GMK though, he's a he's a uh, cartoonishly evil. Sure, he's possessed, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it feels like Kaneko also thinks that Godzilla was pure evil in the original film, which is not true, of course. And so he basically just wanted Godzilla to be as non-sympathetic as possible, even though that wasn't the point Honda wanted in his film. So Godzilla just kills people that weren't doing anything to him. He he murders monsters and yeah, not to fight them. He just murders them, and then tried to kill Yuri and Takeda. I think that's his name, even though they did nothing to him. And and then of course he dies, but not really because he's going to regenerate somehow. And yeah, I think it would have been better had they done had someone else made GMK, or Mothra and Ghidorah weren't even in it, or had it full-on exorcist at the end of that movie and returning Godzilla to normal. So yeah, that's why I personally think Kaneko doesn't really understand both Godzilla and Gamera.
Okay, interesting. So we can. Which one do you want to go over first, Gamera or Godzilla?
Um, Godzilla.
Okay, so in the original Gods, you described Godzilla as a tragic being who is determined only to survive, seeing ships as either food or rivals. My question to you is then, why does he emerge in Odo Island the first time? Because there was no ships that are near Odo Island that he'd see as food or territory, and ends up killing Shinkichi's family. What
Well,
reason would that be?
the houses were in his way. You think Godzilla gives a damn about humans? No, of course not. He was done being in the water. He was gonna go on shore and he was gonna rest on the island. It's
So
just that the
then,
houses were in
so
his
then
way.
Godzilla is amoral.
Yeah, he's a morally gray.
Okay, so if he's morally gray and the houses are in his way, then therefore, what would you categorize the action of him killing people that are in his way? Is that a
That's the
good
thing.
action or a bad action?
Um, it's it's not a good action, of course, but there is also some one other good action. Well, Doctor Yamane wants to study him not because he's a misunderstood hero, but actually because a creature like Godzilla could actually be beneficial for the survival of mankind. Like, how could Godzilla like survive like with a nuke to its face
That is
and
true.
some
However, the actions that you're referring to there refer to Yamane, the character, not to Godzilla or any thought process behind him as a character. So any good that be developed from studying him has nothing to do with the morality of the character itself, and actually has everything to do with the humans. And again, if you are arguing that, and you've just admitted to the fact that Godzilla killing Shinkichi's family would be considered a morally evil action, then if we were to then extrapolate that Godzilla is a morally gray character, then yes, there is enough actions that Godzilla commits in the film that you would then have to posit are morally evil actions, and therefore the destruction of Godzilla, while tragic, is still morally justified.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, I don't. Well, to be fair, um, Godzilla's an animal or a monster. Well, both. Animals don't really have, aside from whales, cetaceans, and primates or proboscideans. Animals don't really have that much of higher thinking, so they don't have a concept of good and evil. Godzilla doesn't have that either.
Even
He's
actually, Godzilla by this point, from GMK, would have a concept of good and evil, or at least the character from a metatextual standpoint would have a concept of good and
he's
evil.
possessed. That's why.
However, no, I would say even from the Showa series and the Heisei series, Godzilla had a concept of good and evil. And also, we could argue the fact that Godzilla isn't just an animal. If you were to argue the fact that Honda saw Godzilla as a tragic character, Honda also didn't want Godzilla to merely just be a giant animal, which is why they made Godzilla as durable as he is. So arguing that Godzilla is simply an animal would contradict the views that Honda have, which would make your basis that because Honda said this, therefore Kaneko doesn't understand Godzilla.
Well, have you heard of his famous line? I don't know the full extent of it,
Monsters
but
are tragic beings. Yes, I'm aware of the line.
yes, it was for Rodan, but it can be easily described for any other giant monster. They're not
Yeah,
evil. They're
you
just
can you can still commit evil actions, still not be a wholly evil being, but like that doesn't make none of that's mutually exclusive.
okay. But
So, as well as also considering the fact that Godzilla has never appeared in Tokyo Bay prior to his mutation, what justification would he have to start destroying the city prior to the electric fences being shorn up in order to defend from him moving forward?
well, I think you could argue that maybe he once again he mistaken the humans that were trying to bomb him in the middle portion of the film as rival creatures, and so thinking that those animals have kicked Godzilla out of his territory, he then decides to have Japan as his territory, and so of course, trying to go to Tokyo Bay and landing ashore, he just wanted to rest. He was just gonna go to land peacefully until the JSDF poked at the Hornet's nest.
Except for the fact that Godzilla had already destroyed several ships beforehand. So if we're talking purely about every single action committed in the film that we see on screen, Godzilla is the first to attack aggressively.
Well, that's what any animal would do. If you if you provoke it, yeah, provoke it. Then of
Except
course
Japan
it's
did
gonna
nothing to provoke Godzilla specifically. The fishing boats do nothing to specifically poke Godzilla, and therefore all the actions that Godzilla does, without a doubt, specifically cause him to be justified in his destruction.
Okay, so I just want to point out Minecraft World said tragedy doesn't erase or excuse mortality. Of course it doesn't, but it does explain certain character traits and why they're doing it the way they are. So, of course,
But
there
and
ain't
if we're
just going to
going to
be.
the comments, Country Shape says in the novelization for 54, he attacks deliberately. So
I
Kayama,
don't.
who already made the original novel, specifically does state that Godzilla is acting aggressively and through a sense of rage. So the idea that Godzilla is acting purely on instinct isn't correct either.
Well, that's the novelization. That's no, I don't really consider novelizations of many movies canon. Like
Even if
the
you
more
don't,
stuff.
Kayama still wrote the baseline for the screenplay as well. So even if we say the novel doesn't count, the DNA of it is still resonant within the movie and isn't contradicted by the movie either.
Okay, well, now as for Godzilla's tragedy, what do you think about that? Like for his death, I mean, both
Yeah,
him and
Godzilla is tragic, but that doesn't justify any actions that he takes. Not to
okay.
mention that, given the circumstances involved, Godzilla's death is vastly it's a greater good to kill Godzilla than it is for Godzilla to be left alive, because Godzilla ultimately will attack more and more cities and cause more and more death.
Well, maybe just to leave him alone, and
Except
maybe.
Godzilla doesn't leave humanity alone,
Hmm.
because
Well,
Godzilla attacks fishing ships first. Godzilla also attacks humans at the start of Godzilla Raids again. In King Kong versus Godzilla, he also attacks a submarine that does not directly attack him. If anything, it directly helps him. And in the first Godzilla film, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, which would be Godzilla's heel turn, Godzilla is first seen on screen destroying a pleasure ship.
hmm. All right. Now on to GMK. What do you think about how I critiqued that version of Godzilla?
Defined cartoonishly evil.
Well, I did make a list already, but to keep it short, Godzilla sees a group of humans fleeing, and despite not doing anything to him, he decides to just kill them. Check. Godzilla tortures Baragon. Check. Godzilla literally grins at the camera while making Ghidorah bleed. Check. Godzilla um fires his atomic breath at the bridge where Yuri and Takeda were at, and it's basically implied Godzilla knows what they're doing. Check. And of course, Godzilla tries to kill Yuri and Takeda while they're defenseless.
Okay.
Checkmate.
So Takeda and Yuri, what are they trying to do when they're over the bridge there?
Um, Telling what Godzilla's doing and just broadcasting it nationwide. Even though Godzilla, unless Godzilla has a super hearing, I don't know how he's able, how he quote unquote knows what they're trying to do to him.
So, given the fact that what is this Godzilla's goal?
Um, Destroyed Japan because he's possessed by the victims of World War II because Japan is as always playing themselves as the victims and forgetting of their most atrocious sins.
Okay. And in this case, if it is two Japanese people who are attempting to stop Godzilla's goals, then Godzilla is, from his standpoint, justified. That's not cartoonishly evil. As well as considering the fact that the stone that Takeda has in his pocket is what causes Ghidorah to be revived. Even if Godzilla isn't aware of this, Godzilla has, from his perspective, more than enough reason to kill these people.
Okay. Okay. Well, I know it's an understandable motive, but it is treated as is cartoonishly evil. It's not
Yeah, but
as
define cartoonishly evil though. You've been giving me examples, but what makes something cartoonishly evil? As well as also if we look here at the shot from GMK, there isn't really anything specifically that could be described as grinning, since all we see here is the top of his head. And if
well.
we look at
Godzilla's
this right
making an
here,
expression.
that's an expression. You could read this as either a smile or a snarl. So
Okay.
specifically calling it a smile and then
Wait. Go.
attributing cartoonishly evil would be a supposition that you're making, which would require a burden of proof, if not like
Okay.
a director's statement.
Okay. Wait. Go to the scene where where Godzilla's about was biting Ghidorah's neck. Play it. I'll show you an example. See me. I'll tell you what I mean. Okay. No. 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 Right there.
Yeah.
Look at that.
All we see
He's
is the top of his head. So how could you don't even see the bottom of his mouth. So how could you consider this a smile?
his eyes seem to like make a frown.
Yeah. A frown doesn't mean a smile. Those are two different things. And if we
Uh.
look at this 1 second, and if anything, we don't even see his brow furrow at all. It's just the head moving.
All right. Well, it. I think it is mostly in play because once again, this is the only evil Godzilla. Okay. Well, not. Well, one that's like not on its own will. I think Ultima is even more evil, but that's a different story for another day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
Kasaibu says,
evil does not necessarily mean that is cartoonishly evil, and or just because it's evil is smiling.
and because I want to bring up something that Kasaibu said. Takashi Yamazaki loves this film, by the way, and that is true. And in fact, -1 does have a lot of inspiration from this movie. There is a big difference, though. Whereas Kaneko thinks that any other Godzilla that isn't the original and his own Godzilla as invalid, Yamazaki does have somewhat the same mindset, but he's more tolerable to them.
Where
By
has Kaneko ever said that?
um, he said that in multiple reviews that Godzilla. He thinks the only thing that makes Godzilla or the only Godzillas that matter to him is 54 and GMK.
Yeah, but could you provide a quote for that? Because if that is something Kaneko has said often, then it'd be pretty easy for you to find this quote. I can give you time to do that if you'd like.
Okay. Well, I wrote a thread from Mesa on Twitter where he basically lists many prominent kaiju Eiga directors who share their fair share of distaste for many kaiju movies. One of them is on one part he mentions Shusuke Kaneko where he thinks, or once again, he thinks that any Godzilla that is heroic and that it is basically just not Godzilla to him. Basically,
Then can you link that then? Because if you can link that, then we can go over the clip within the context that is presented.
all right. Okay. Let me.
So you can send it via Discord.
Okay. Let me be right back.
How are we doing today, guys? I thank you all for coming on as always. Again, if you guys love these kinds of streams, specifically these debate ones, feel free to give me a like and comment right now if you are interested in doing something like this in the future. And I'm not just talking about debates. You can do art discussions, one-on-ones, live consultings, things like that. I like having these one-on-ones. Not that I don't like the cast and crew that I have accumulated over the years. I love all you guys so much, but doing these simple 1-2s with people helps specifically so that they don't feel like they're being drowned out by other people or feel like they're being ganged up on. I don't mind that. I love that. That's all part of the game for me. So yeah, if anyone is interested in doing something like this, but not necessarily a debate, join the Discord or comment below. Just let me know. Yep, that is what the debate discussion is. Thank you, Sea Monster. Run! It's Godzilla! It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not. Still, we should run like it is Godzilla, though it isn't. Ah! There's a few new people have joined as well. We got Sanimus. We doing. Thank you. And Test and Inspector. How's it going, my man? He smiles when killing Ghidorah and destroying humans. If you can bring me a quote, Akno, that is the intent behind the scene, I will gladly submit to that point then. Yeah, GMK Godzilla isn't laughing maniacally when he kills people, if I'm not mistaken. You are not mistaken. That is exactly the point. And Graham Destroyer, I forgot to say hello to you too. How's it going, my man? Make Gamera a villain again. So, like, the thing with Gamera being a villain is that it does make sense that if you want to go back to Gamera's roots, quote unquote, Gamera could be a villain. But considering the vast majority of any and all Gamera material is Gamera as a hero, it would make little sense to go back to Gamera's roots. Considering the fact that Gamera was always a cash-in on Godzilla, trying to go back to something that is closer to Godzilla, but just use Gamera instead, it would strip Gamera of the identity that he has built up. So, yeah, I don't see a reason to make Gamera a villain again. I personally think that Shusuke Kaneko doesn't understand Godzilla because GMK did end with Megalon soloing Godzilla, the guardian monsters in all of Japan. I love Megalon. I wish we got more Megalon stuff. And we'll go up here as well. What is bro yapping about? Yeah, this is something that I wanted to bring up, and for people in the comments, or at least watching it now, is how many people need to die by Godzilla's hands in 1954 before it's acceptable for humanity to respond in kind, whether he's an animal or not? Considering the fact that if we are to say that Godzilla is a product of humanity, then Godzilla killing more humans is therefore a strike against humanity if we were to say Godzilla is an animal with no agency. And as an unnatural creature, one with extraordinary powers, it would make all the sense in the world to prevent future lives being lost to kill a singular creature that is Godzilla. I won't say GMK is cartoonishly evil. I would say he's spiteful. The example I think of is the hospital scene. I would say, like, spiteful makes sense. I don't want to use the word primarily because the connotations behind spiteful, especially just in an internet context, when people think of spiteful, they think of like petty drama type of beat. But yeah, spiteful does make sense. GMK Godzilla is definitely evil, considering the fact that Japan does commit wrongs during the war that does not therefore justify the ethnic cleansing of the Japanese people at the hands of the spirits using Godzilla. Yeah, GMK Godzilla is an undead embodiment of vengeful evil. The angry ghosts that are fueling his rage don't care about innocent or guilty. They're out to punish all of Japan and anyone else in their way. Exactly. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Gamera being a villain again. Not just to go back to his roots, but also have it be different and less typically than other Gamera films. That's the thing, is that nothing tickles my pickle, giggity giggity, when it comes to I want to see something that's less typical, because a lot of times the flair that comes to stories like that is the fact that it's unconventional. And I frankly am always wary because in most cases, like Godzilla 98, the unique attributes that are changed in order to be different are really the only sauce that the property then has when it diverges like that, and ultimately becomes a waste of time. Yeah, I don't like the idea of Gamera being a villain at all. No, I do not either. Like, could it work? Sure. I mean, we see a little bit of it in Gamera Rebirth, but ultimately, no. 98 was different. In what sense, Convoy? I'm curious. Unfortunately, my lunch break is about to end.
Find it, but I know it exists. I knew I read it. I knew.
Yes, you can say that, and you know it exists, but if there's no preponderance of evidence, then it can be dismissed without evidence of my own. Like,
Okay.
do you know who brought it up? Like, what threaded? Who made it?
Yeah. Wait. Wait. But there is another thread where he did say it, so I am gonna go back to searching again. I'll
Okay,
be right
have
back
fun.
once more.
Do 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 do. Where was it? We need to find it. There it is. Yeah. So this is something fun that I was reading before the stream, which is Behind the Kaiju Curtain: A Journey onto Japanese Biggest Film Sets. It's by Norman England, and it's this little quote right here. It says, "The thing is, Kaneko can't take kidding at this phase of the production, friendly or otherwise. He sometimes falls deep into thought or gets strict over something minor. In fact, Kaneko started complaining to me about the online postings of a Godzilla fan going by the handle jr5gi. And it says in quote, "This loser won't shut up about how the director of Gamera should not be allowed to direct Godzilla," he bemoans. "Now it's my turn to get annoyed. The people online, screw them," I tell them. "I'm sure most mean well, but some of them fixate on nonsense, and their writing is nothing more than the musings of the obsessed." Kaneko looks at me with interest. "What they're after is to show off their knowledge," I continue. "They want the world to know that their fervor is second to none. Their sole purpose is establishing their superiority. Engaging them is futile. If it's not this, it'll be something else." I make him promise to stop reading the web boards. I can't believe I missed this. Discord didn't inform me. Zim, why didn't you post anything? Zim, I'm so sorry. The thing that's so interesting about this is that I chose not to actually do a announcement on this one, because I personally was like, I love doing these debates, but if I'm like sending this to other people, it may come across as I'm trying to get like a lot of eyes on it specifically so I can dunk, which I do like the views and I appreciate it, but there's a level of I want this to be as even for the other person as it can be, regardless of who it is, with like one exception. But yeah, I will definitely, because we're at 14 viewers. We were at like 22 a little earlier. And I'm curious to see how the views for this stream pan out, considering how many viewers I had just continuously for a little bit. So it may just have to do with the time of day as well as what the topic is. I finally ordered the high 91 Godzilla. Oh, nice, man. So the quote was Kaneko rubbing it in a Termini online weirdo's face. Yeah. I was just reading through the book because I want to see if there's anything that was interesting or at least relevant to this topic, and I that stuck out to me, so I found that absolutely hilarious. Different doesn't always mean good. Most things wanting to be different end up falling in the face, is 90s prime example. No, exactly. I don't know. He could get me with something right now at the moment. For those who are just tuning in right now, there is a quote that O5 is trying to look for, stating that Kaneko only views his Godzilla and Godzilla 54 to be the only valid Godzillas. So he said there was several different threads where he found it. So all we do at the moment is we wait to see where that is. Back when online discourse wasn't as big as it is today. Yeah. And I know that I forget his name off the top of my head. I think no, it's Mezzo. Mezzo, I think, had a thread on Kaneko, which I might look up myself as well, because I thought it was a thread of Mezzo's that he might be referring to. I don't blame Kaneko. I would do the same if I was director. I think that most directors would be like, well, the first one's valid, and like I love my thing so much because it's so good. So yes, only my thing is valid, which does make sense to some people. I know there is a lot of I like, with the exception of 98. and GXK. I like really every incarnation of Godzilla in all the movies, but there's a lot that I don't particularly like in the sense of this is the direction I would want the franchise to go, but that is just me. I vaguely remember a quote like that. Not sure if it's 1-to-1 105 is saying though. Again, it could be that's why I'm asking him to bring it up because it could be the case that this quote is real. It could be the case that the quote is being misspoken. That's why if someone is going to bring up a quote, please, oh please, link it to me, or if we have the book and we both have it, therefore we can both show it off together and people can follow along if they are doing so at home. So, for example, the quote that I just brought up is from page 12 of Behind the Kaiju Curtain. It is possible that he could be referring to the Big Action Bill quote. Minecraft in this case, or if anyone in this case is able to, if they want to bring up Big Action Bill's video and find the supposed quote, I will gladly bring it up on stream so we can discuss it. Different doesn't mean good. This is why you should be racist. No, it's xenocyst, I think. That's the proper term for it. And I'm going through Mezzo's tweets right now because I thought there was something recently he had done about Kaneko, and I'm not seeing anything. Which, again, this is why debate prep is good. Which, hey.
Okay, I found it.
Found it? Link it to me. Link it.
All right. So, a private chat.
Discord DM.
Discord DM.
Yes.
All right. Let me do that.
How those drama? I even know those drama. I may have to respond to that, Vic. I might have to.
Okay, it's been sent to you.
Okay. Let's go. So it is Mezzo's. So we will share this here. Share screen. So a mini thread about Godzilla directors who disliked other Godzilla movies. Honda was a fan of the Heisei movies from Godzilla vs. Biollante versus Mothra. Hideo Shushong, he didn't offer them any praise. He also disliked War of the Gargantuas. Fukuda didn't care for Godzilla movies made after the original. Bano was disappointed in the Final Wars. Amori, at least when he first saw, he was impressed with 84. Tezuka hated 2000. Kaneko doesn't think Godzilla movies with Godzilla as a sympathetic or positive character are valid. He has similar opinions on Gamera movies, except for the surprise, the 3 that he directed. Okay, so that's the quote that we're bringing up.
Exactly.
He doesn't think movies with Godzilla as a sympathetic or positive character are valid. So in this case, that means that he thinks that Godzilla 54, Godzilla 55, Godzilla 62, Godzilla 64 for versus Mothra, 84, Biollante, King Ghidorah versus Mothra, 2000 versus Megaguirus against Mechagodzilla, Tokyo SOS, and Final Wars would be valid by this metric. Because all of those do not show Godzilla as an overly sympathetic or positive character.
Okay, but shouldn't he also like Shin or the Polygon trilogy, since they're also those Godzillas also aren't sympathetic, and also Singular Point and -1? Shouldn't he like those movies as well?
Yeah, I would consider those as well. I was only specifically talking about the Suitmation films, but yeah, we can include those as well.
Mm-hmm. What's very funny is that he does acknowledge the similarities between his Gamera films and the MonsterVerse films, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and since that is the case, if you want to bring link that as well before we get to Gamera, that'd be interesting. And just because I'm interested here, Kitamura was a fan of movies made after the Showa series. Higuchi criticized later Heisei movies. Okay. And considering the fact that almost every single one of these directors here had taken umbrage with a lot of the other films, Kaneko particularly disliking Godzilla films where he's a sympathetic or positive character doesn't really mean too much. If anything, it really only means the later half of the Heisei series he wouldn't particularly like, but then you'd have to ask him if he thinks Godzilla is a positive character in those cases. For the sake of argument, I will say that versus Mechagodzilla 2 and Space Godzilla and Destroyer, no, because he's trying to care for Godzilla Jr., but you could argue otherwise. But really, it would just mean that most of the Fukuda films and some of Honda's films he wasn't a fan of.
Yeah.
As well as Honda himself criticized the direction that the Showa series was moving in, especially when it came to King Kong versus Godzilla, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and Invasion of Astro Monster.
Mm-hmm. Well, still.
So the argument I would then make is that if Honda himself took issue with those, with Godzilla moving in a more positive direction, does that mean Honda doesn't understand Godzilla either, even if he was the one who had to direct them?
Well, that's the thing. I never said that. I never said that that Godzilla was supposed to be positive. I said that in order for Godzilla to be Godzilla, he needs to be tragic and needs to have a time and place where Godzilla is defeated by something much worse than him.
Yeah, but
Rather,
also sympathetic and tragic are not the same thing. We could argue that sympathetic is a synonym to tragic, but you can have Godzilla be a tragic monster, but not have sympathy for the monster.
yeah, that's true. But still, it's just very weird that Kaneko has this mindset when, of course, I'm pretty sure Ishiro Honda, if he was alive, he would hate GMK for how he portrayed Godzilla as just completely cartoonishly evil.
Again,
Just
you haven't qualified what you mean by cartoonishly evil,
okay.
because you haven't displayed the fact that Godzilla is objectively smiling in the scenes that you presented. One of the scenes we can't even see his whole head, so to even claim that he is smiling is a gross exaggeration of what we could even assume for that scene, and the other could be read as one or the other.
Okay. All right. Still,
what?
maybe if Kaneko wants to make a giant monster movie where his monster is just completely evil, I think he should make an original one and just stay the heck away from Godzilla and Gamera. Because while I can see,
Considering the fact that GMK was the most successful Millennium film, it definitely says a lot about how much GMK resonated with the Japanese audience and with Godzilla fans.
pretty sure it was only because of Marquet Valley with Mothra and Ghidorah had. It's the same problem I have with Wingard verse fans defending the GVK duology by saying that Wingard saved the Monsterverse when it was just the freaking premise of Godzilla fighting Kong saving it.
That may be true, but that does not necessarily mean this is the case as well. Considering the fact that Godzilla versus, I think, Mothra was one of the top ranked Heisei films, but it was overshadowed by Mechagodzilla 2, or at least King Ghidorah was overshadowed by Mechagodzilla 2. We could argue that the Kiryu duology should have had a similar ticket sales to GMK, which I don't believe are the case. I think GMK vastly outshines them.
Well,
so just to say that it's due to the marquee value of the enemy monsters, I think is a gross overstatement of how much they added to that film.
okay, do you want to move on to Gamera, or do you want?
I think there's a few things that I'm still curious about, because you still haven't defined what difference there is between sympathetic and tragic. Not to mention the fact that I do very much trust what Mezzo is saying. I think he's a very reliable source, but there is no actual quote behind this other than probably a collection of other things Kaneko has said. So I can wait longer if
Well,
you'd like to actually collect the quotes, or you can concede on the point.
well, well, for sympathy and tragic, I mean, I don't think there's that much similarities, but because of course, something tragic like something bad, horrible happened to that creature's past, and of course, feeling bad for that creature, as in a way like you feel bad for this monster, like it's just like like once again, it's just like any other animal in our world, but because it's
Except it's not. It's a
sentient.
mutated creature by our own hands that is able to level cities. So it's a there is definitely a difference between Godzilla, kaiju general, and normal animals.
Okay, Kaiju Not says, "Oh, five is out of line, but he's right. Adam Wingard saved the Monsterverse. I never said he did. In fact, it's the premise that saved it. So okay. So
Mhm.
so like for example, I might feel bad for some deranged person for what happened to him in his past, and might have some sympathy. Of course, I'm not obviously gonna turn him into a good guy. It's just I do feel a little bit I do feel sorry for that person.
You may have sympathy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that was the intent behind the what is being presented on screen. If anything, is far more tragic. And actually, Honda's quote isn't that monsters are sympathetic beings; it's that monsters are tragic beings. I can find the quote here.
Okay, hold on, I'll be right back.
Let's see. And because it is a lot easier, we'll just use Gojipedia since it has a pretty good shot there of the quote, and we'll restate it when O5 gets back. Monsters are tragic beings. They're born too tall, too strong, too heavy. They're not evil by choice. That is their tragedy. So again, it's using tragedy, not sympathy, but we'll restate this again when he gets back. Once again, guys, if you are liking the stream and you have a topic that you'd want to debate or do a one-on-one with, I will be more than glad to set up a time for us to do something like this, because I like these simple one-on-one discussions. Not that I dislike the large chaos of the bigger streams. I love the fact that people are always so willing to come on for those. But these little back and forths, I think, provide a little bit more insight often from time to time. If you're sentient, then you have a capacity to choose evil. Clifford's strategy was that he was too big.
Yeah, that's the quote that Honda said.
Yeah, but then if we go back to Mezzo's statement about Kaneko, Kaneko says he does not think movies with Godzilla as sympathetic or positive are valid, where the quote Honda makes is that monsters are tragic beings, and you've already conceded that sympathy and tragedy are not the same. So therefore, using Honda's quote does not prove your point. If anything, it proved my point because of the fact that we understand Honda saw Godzilla as a destructive force, but also a tragic character, and objected to the more sympathetic and positive interpretations of Godzilla later on in the Showa series.
Oh well, Dr. Yamada did feel sympathy for Godzilla when he died.
Yeah, but that does not mean that that sentiment was shared by everyone else in the film. And considering the vast majority of the characters act in accordance of trying to stop and kill Godzilla, Yamane is in the vast minority of opinion there.
Also, you
And
said that for the movies that Kaneko would see valid, like you said that Return of Godzilla and versus King Ghidorah would be valid to him, and yet Godzilla's portrayed
he's
in a
tragic, not
sympathetic way.
sympathetic.
Yes, he is. Especially in versus King Ghidorah, like in that time travel sequence to the 1940s Lagos Island, the characters do feel sympathy for Godzilla, and then in the
They may
present,
feel sympathy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that is the point that is trying to be conveyed overall. It's
and
tragic
then
that Godzilla was on that island, and it's tragic that due to humanity's actions, Godzilla happens to be injured so badly that ultimately it's moved and becomes Godzilla that we know of. And because it's the same Godzilla from 84, we have a greater context for that film. And Godzilla's actions are tragic because ultimately what humanity does to it is what causes Godzilla to go on and do the actions that it later commits because of humanity, which is still tragic. But that does not necessarily mean we are supposed to be sympathetic to um, Godzilla there.
Okay, and okay, well, Shindo did feel sympathetic for Godzilla.
And
That's
what
for
happened to
sure.
Shindo?
Um, he died, but here's the thing: Godzilla actually, it could be implied that Godzilla didn't really want to kill Shindo because, as I know, Rick Discord's not really a reliable YouTuber, but I did really like his Heisei Godzilla video, especially where he does say that maybe Godzilla, the only human Godzilla didn't really hate, was Mr. Shindo himself, and Godzilla was almost like crying at tears, like seeing his only companion alive after all these years, and Godzilla tried to hold back tears but couldn't. He didn't want to kill the only human he didn't hate. Shindo, with all the pain and guilt he had those years, said yes, do it by nodding like that. And then Godzilla decides he would eventually.
That would
And of
still be
course now
tragic, not
Godzilla
sympathetic.
and now Godzilla's even more angrier now that Godzilla proceeds to destroy the rest of Japan because now Japan has basically destroyed him even more emotionally than before.
Except for the fact that Godzilla had already been rampaging through another city before he even got to Shindo's apartment. I would still say that, yes, I do find the scene poetic. I would say that the writing of that film does not justify a level of sympathy to that degree for Shindo or Godzilla in that case. I would say that it is, again, tragic that that is the circumstances that lead them to where they are, but that does not mean that Godzilla is treated as overly sympathetic, because
Oh wait,
Godzilla is still treated as the major antagonist of the film once King Ghidorah is dead, and even after he's killed Shindo.
okay. There's two things Black Aroni said that I'm gonna have to debunk. He said Griffith was tortured and his tongue cut out and starved and kept alive to prolong his suffering. Yet the eclipse happened, and we all know what he did to Casca and Guts. Here's the difference, Black Aroni. Uh, Griffith is a human, so his action, a human, when a human does that, it's obviously inexcusable. Then he says,
Actually, to debunk your own point, because we're trailing off here, Griffith, by the nature of causality, was always destined to have the Beherit. So therefore, all of the actions that Griffith commits on the Band of a Hawk, you could also argue are justified because of the rules of causality. So if we're arguing the fact that, oh, because Griffith's a human, by the laws of the universe that he's in, it was probably always going to happen. So therefore, I don't believe that is necessarily the case.
"Okay." Then he says, "Everything can be implied if you force the plot into whatever idea thematic substance you have. It's applying is just scope." Well, the thing is, if it was literally spoon fed to you by saying, but if like Shindo and Godzilla for some reason started talking, then of course there's like big confirmation of what happened between the two interaction, and it obviously would be it would be a terrible scene and could be ruined with the added cringy choice of dialogue, but they didn't.
Or it could be ruined by the fact that Godzilla was already destroying a city and killing people before he even got to Shindo, which would undercut the sympathy angle.
All right. What else do you want to talk about?
Was there anything about your points about Godzilla that I haven't addressed before we get to Gamera?
Um, well, I forgot to also mention on how he treated the other three monsters, Ghidorah, Mothra, and Baragon.
Oh, right. Yeah, let's go with that.
I
Okay.
don't know about Baragon because I haven't seen Frankenstein versus Baragon, but yeah, he didn't treat Mothra and Ghidorah that much better, which is very evident because he wanted to have Anguirus and Varen in the film, which obviously would have made more sense given the context, but of course Toho being Toho ruined it and decided to swap in Ghidorah and Mothra. Anyways, Mothra is a near pure good character. Sure, she did destroy a city once, but that was to save the twin fairies from uh um exploitation. And King Ghidorah is an alien from a distant planet. It's not Venus, but a distant planet from a far galaxy. Of course, Ghidorah being an alien is of course going to be a lot more intelligent and more understanding of good and evil than Godzilla. So
Wait,
Ghidorah,
why would an alien be have a greater concept of good and evil than Godzilla when Ghidorah is also just a giant monster?
well, in many media, it's always this aliens always portrayed as more intelligent than us humans.
Sure, but that
So
isn't always necessarily the case, so therefore that's a post hoc rationalization to say that Ghidorah is more intelligent. There are plenty of examples of aliens before and after Ghidorah's appearance in media that had aliens being less intelligent than humanity. So to argue that Ghidorah is more intelligent by virtue of being an alien doesn't make sense. And it also doesn't matter to GMK's plot either. Like Baragon eats people in Frankenstein conquers the world, but that has no matter. It doesn't matter to the plot of GMK.
well, you could say the same thing for Superman, but of course, people complained about how the way Snyder treated Superman. So if that's okay to compare, why is it not okay to compare the Showa versions of Baragon, Mothra, and Ghidorah to the GMK versions of them?
I'm also not talking about Superman. That'd be a different argument that I'd be making.
Oh, oh yeah. So Ghidorah, I know Ghidorah in GMK is not the first time Ghidorah was not portrayed as a extraterrestrial life form, hey Sayara, but Ghidorah was still a destructive creature in the Heisei era, even if he wasn't as evil
But he was
as
just
his.
in a mind control essentially, because the moment Ghidorah loses the mind control, he tries to flee. So it
Okay,
could be argued that Ghidorah has no agency of his own in the Heisei series.
yeah, that's why, in my opinion, I do think the best iterations of King Ghidorah are the Showa version and the 1998 Rebirth of Mothra version. But as for Ghidorah in GMK, he's treated as a wimp, a good guy, a generic superhero, and
How is he generic?
he wants to save Japan from
What
destruction
does it mean
of
by
Godzilla.
Japan?
What?
When he says he's trying to save Japan, what do you mean by that?
The nature Japan, not nation Japan.
Yeah, so that's probably far from Jim and Eric there. So say calling Ghidorah a generic superhero there makes very little sense.
Well, he saved Yuri and Takeda. I'm pretty sure they would have been fine had had Ghidorah's bubbles like not been us um unleashed on the surface. It's water. It's not like solid ground.
Yeah,
They
and
could,
considering the fact that Takeda's stone falling out of his pocket is what causes Ghidorah to be revived, that still would not add to your point about Ghidorah being a generic superhero in this movie.
and as for Mothra, oh wait, we're still on Ghidorah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Ghidorah. The thing is, I just don't. I just don't know why it had to be Ghidorah. Could it at least be Rodan or King Caesar? But
Because Toho wanted those monsters because of their success in the Heisei series. The
well,
success of the Heisei series is primarily why certain characters were reused in the Millennium series, which is what creates the concept of the Big Five in the Godzilla series to begin with.
well, then they should have used Rodan then, like for the
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but even then, Rodan isn't really a guardian monster either. Neither is Anguirus. Varen is probably the closest to a quote unquote guardian monster, but in Varen's case, he also doesn't fit in with his original interpretation either.
okay. Well, I just don't like the way just get how Ghidorah was utilized
Yeah,
and
so then the point isn't that Kaneko doesn't understand, it's the fact that you don't like it,
well,
which is perfectly valid to you personally, but that is not an objective stance.
but still, like, it's very funny how people like to call Godzilla from Godzilla 1998 as just Zilla, but then they're perfectly fine with this version of Ghidorah, King Ghidorah. Like, come on, this King Ghidorah is basically K Gino, like King Ghidorah in name only.
I mean, if you want, we can go over how GMK Ghidorah looks like a regular Ghidorah, except different, has the same powers, actually has more powers than certain incarnations of King Ghidorah. So,
Well, anime King Ghidorah is implied to have more powers than any others, but once again, when you
irregardless,
see it,
so yeah, so the idea that Ghidorah is closer to 90 in that sense when Ghidorah looks and for the most part acts being an adversary to Godzilla is more in line with Ghidorah from a meta-contextual lens than Godzilla 98 is, not to mention the fact that we see the 98 design appear again as the Monster Zilla, which further
okay,
cemented as separate from Godzilla the character.
okay, well, the thing is, I don't care if the character looks like the character or not, or if I don't consider them faithful to their original counterpart if they don't have the same origin, same personality as their original counterpart. That's why I don't view
Wait, restate that point one more time. I just want to make sure I get it right. Say it again.
um I don't a character in order for a remade character to be faithful, they need to have the same characterization and the same origin. That's why I don't consider Legendary Godzilla, Shin Godzilla, Godzilla Earth, and Godzilla Ultima Godzilla, but just
So
variants of
that would mean
Godzilla.
that there's never been a faithful reinterpretation of Mechagodzilla. Um, there's only been one faithful, close to faithful reinterpretation of Ghidorah. Um, your proposed reimagining of GMK would make unfaithful versions of Varan, Anguirus, and Baragon. Baragon, which you don't really talk about at all, is very unfaithful to his original counterpart. Um, Mothra in other versions, even in the Heisei era, is not as close to the original interpretation of 64, which means it's not faithful. Um, Gigan is a little different in Final Wars, which would make him not faithful.
I mean, he
And
does. He
Hedorah is not faithful. Ebera wouldn't be faithful. Any monster from Final Wars wouldn't really be faithful based on their previous interpretation.
I mean, what else could you do with a giant lobster or a smog monster or a cyborg space chicken
A
or
lot. We see it happen in Godzilla Rules of Earth. Here there be aliens. The Godzilla, like Son of
oh,
Giants.
so
There's a lot of material that you can do with these monsters. It
okay,
just comes down to just properly characterizing them.
okay. Atomic Convoy said Mechagodzilla hasn't been an alien in a long time. Have you watched the anime trilogy?
In that case, there's only been one slight. Actually, no, because it becomes a city, never becomes the true Mechagodzilla to fight Godzilla. So even though the
True.
anime Mechagodzilla is not faithful either. So by the metric that you have proposed, there has never been another faithful interpretation of really any of these monsters.
Um. Well, yes, Mothra for the most part, aside from her GMK in MonsterVerse iterations, are faithful.
Tokyo
The
SOS
Heisei,
isn't all that faithful because for some reason Mothra has an obsession with Godzilla's bones, which she never had an obsession with anything outside of the fairies and Infant Island in the original film. Same thing goes for the most part in the Heisei era. And
well, I
actually, it's
don't.
even more interesting because even though the fairies are kidnapped, Mothra was kidnapped first, which muddies the original interpretation. So overall, Mothra isn't portrayed all that faithfully. Rodan's
Well,
story is very different in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2, and there's the added wrinkle of the baby Godzilla, which would make him not faithful to his original interpretation. And again, with all the Final Wars monsters, they're all modified and under the control of aliens, which they never really were for some of them, and some of them were. But even then, destroy all monsters, if they were mind controlled there first, would mean that they're very unfaithful to their original interpretations from other pieces of media. Moguera is from Godzilla versus Space Godzilla isn't faithful. So again, by your own metric, there hasn't really been any faithful reinterpretations of any of these monsters, which by your own metric again would mean that they aren't good.
and I think this is one thing I. Okay, so if that's the case, then that's one thing I don't understand with the kaiju fandom in general. And so many other fandoms, whenever you mess up a character's origins and character, of course you're going to be lambasted. But here, it's just weird. They endorse this drastic change, even though it's not even like versatile. They like to say it's just inconsistent characterization. I mean, Blackaroonie did make a video about the versatility of Godzilla, and while I don't think he executed it well, I do think he does have a point when it comes to portraying Godzilla as faithful and consistent as possible.
Yeah, but again, if we're going by that argument, you've said that the Heisei series is the best continuation, but by that metric, there's a lot of unfaithful interpretations of the monsters, and Godzilla itself is also not exactly one to one, so it wouldn't be a faithful either. So you've essentially broken down your own argument at that point and the foundations that you've laid there. Not to
Well,
mention the fact that most of the discussions around the faithfulness of these monsters and their origins comes from the early 2000s fandom and the message boards from there, which I'm not even endorsing everything they have said because everyone's entitled to their opinion and we'd have to go by those from a case by case basis. But most of the people who are making these arguments are coming from a place where they've not even made these, weren't even around for when those films came out. So to say that they're inconsistent in that aspect makes very little sense since probably most of them only were alive and actually saw these films as they came out, like maybe half of the Heisei series and all the Millennium era.
okay, well, back to your what about what you said about Mothra, like Mothra being obsessed with Godzilla's bones, even though like she's fought him before. I
No,
don't
I
think
never said that. I said that Mothra is obsessed with Godzilla's bones is out of character because the only ties and duties Mothra had was specifically to Infant Island and the people of Infant Island and the fairies. It had nothing to do with not liking Godzilla's bones because they fought before.
well,
Not to mention the fact that from this continuity, they've never fought before.
yeah, but well, I don't think Mothra in general really hates Godzilla. I mean, I don't think she likes him. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but I never
I'm
said
pretty
anything
sure.
about liking or disliking Godzilla. It has everything to do with the fact that Mothra, as a character, does not have a particular love or hate for Godzilla, but has a particular love and relationship with the people of Infant Island and Godzilla's bones, whether in the hands of the Japanese or at the bottom of the sea, would really have no direct connection to Mothra and her themes.
Well, Mothra is the guardian of nature and guardian of life, so I don't think.
That's also a misinterpretation of the original film as well, because she's a guardian of Infant Island and Infant Island's people and their environment, but not the whole world.
Well, well, maybe I don't know. This franchise is consistent, even as someone who really loves it. Now, yeah, I think it's time to move on to Gamera now because I have a lot to say about.
Sure, but would you concede that some of the points that you've made don't really make a whole lot of sense?
I wouldn't say it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I can see where you're coming from.
Um, well, is there any point that you still want to argue before we get to Gamera?
No.
Okay, let's move on to Gamera.
All right. So about Gamera's original incarnation, what did you think about that? What I said earlier.
I only started typing some of it, so if you want to restate it, you can, so I can type out any points that I want to add.
Well, okay. Well, Gamera, even
Because I
though
already got that Gamera is a pure good hero, apparently, and
near.
Heisei Gamera is a near, not pure. Okay. Let
Okay.
me change that.
No, Heisei Gamera is Homelander, but Showa Gamera is a near pure good character. So, well, yes, Showa Gamera did start it off as destructive. That's because it was changed because he was basically being called a Godzilla ripoff, and I think that change was for the better. Gamera became so distinct from Godzilla, he basically became a rival kaiju to Godzilla. Gamera wasn't saving cities in the Showa era. I mean, no, saving planet Earth like Godzilla was in the Showa era, but he was literally saving mankind, children most notably, because children see hope in Gamera. Gamera's the friend of all children in the Showa era, and that's wholesome. In the Heisei era, though, I'm gonna say it. Gamera in the Heisei era is much more destructive than Godzilla in the Heisei era.
Okay. We can go by that as well, but let's start. How is Gamera Heisei Gamera Homelander?
Um, he's a hero in the sense that because Gamera is doing cool stuff, but at the same time, Gamera doesn't realize that he's just killing and murdering a bunch of people.
That
That
would make him very different from Homelander because Homelander is very much aware of the fact that he's killing people and enjoys killing people because he sees himself as above humanity and has no ties to defend anything. Any heroic acts Homelander does is a front put on in order for people, the masses, to assume that Homelander's a hero. But we as the audience know that Gamera is not a hero. Whereas in the Heisei series, we know for a fact objectively that what Gamera does is in order to protect humanity.
yeah, I'm doing an X to down on that because okay, so maybe my comparison to Homelander isn't correct. It's my comparison to Snyder vs Superman and Bay vs Optimus are more in line because both
We'll
of
use
these
Bayforce Optimus Prime in this case.
yeah, both of these characters are based on two pure, well, almost pure good characters that save everything of life. Basically, freedom is the right of all sentient beings. But then by the
Before
newer,
you continue, are we comparing Bayverse Optimus to G1 Optimus?
I'm comparing G1 Optimus and Showa. I mean, Bayverse
Optimus
Optimus,
to G1?
Bayverse Optimus to Heisei Gamera and
No.
G1.
What I'm saying is that are we comparing Bayverse Optimus to G1 Optimus and Showa Gamera to Heisei Gamera? Is that the point that we're making?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, what did Optimus try to do to Megatron during the Transformers movie?
Um. He tried to kill him.
Yes. So you were just about to say that G1 Optimus wants to preserve all life and that freedom is the right of all sentient beings when Optimus not only kills several Decepticons before he gets to Megatron and then almost kills Megatron before Hot Rod gets in the way. So the idea that Optimus wouldn't kill anyone definitely isn't supported by the events of the series, the movie, or the comics.
I think it's a different. Well, either way, I think it's different to how Optimus was going to kill Megatron and how Optimus killed Megatron in Dark of the Moon. Optimus
Bill,
was doing it to
what did
protect,
Megatron intend to do after
uh,
they dealt with Sentinel?
take back the Earth,
Yeah, exactly. And what did Megatron want to do to the humans of the Earth?
enslave them.
Exactly. So
The
therefore,
thing
does
is,
that mean
in the original script for Dark of the Moon, Optimus and Megatron were going to team up against Sentinel, and then after that, there was going to be a truce between Autobots and Decepticons.
that is
Decepticons,
irrelevant? As you also argued earlier for myself, that we cannot include the Godzilla 54 novelization to better characterize the actions taken in the films. So therefore, the earlier script for Dark of the Moon, we wouldn't be able to include in this case for Dark of the Moon.
well, here's the thing: for Gojira's case, that's a novel, which you could argue is not canon, but that
And
for
neither is a script because we never see any of the events in the original script take place on screen because it did not happen.
well, I mean, if
Whereas
you
the novel is describing the same, if not similar, events with a similar intent behind them as companion pieces.
yeah, okay, well, if you watch the movie, at the end of the movie, you could see that Optimus is oddly placed on the small bridge, like there's also like supposed to be someone standing near him.
Okay. Again, it still doesn't happen in the movie, so therefore there is no bearing that it would have on the plot.
Yeah. Still, either way, the way that the way how it's portrayed in both movies is obviously different. Optimus was in G1, Optimus was doing it to protect life. In Bayverse, Optimus was just a psychopath.
Prove it.
Um, give me your face, or
You
you
mean
die,
so?
or
So
you
you mean
shall
from
die.
Revenge of the Fallen when he kills the Fallen, who's essentially the Satan of the Cybertronians? Do you think that there's no such justification for something like righteous anger against, again, what is ostensibly the arch enemy of your entire society and the beginning of the war that you've been fighting for years?
Well, I mean, sure, he can kill them, but not in a like such a brutal way that makes him worse than any Decepticon.
Again, Optimus kills them. He doesn't torture them, unlike the Decepticons who do cannibalize and torture their enemies.
Well, Optimus rips off the face of the Fallen. He could have just shot. He could have just shot a hole. He could have shot a at the Fallen's chest, and that would be it. He didn't have to like be
That doesn't
so.
mean anything. Because, again, you're talking about the literal worst human, or not worst human, worst Cybertronian in history that Optimus is fighting. The idea that he shouldn't do a certain action within the heat of battle makes little to no sense.
Well, I think it's out of character because if you watch Transformers 2007, Optimus was willing to for to end his own life just so by telling Sam to explode the Allspark on his chest, and that when after Sam kills Megatron, Optimus says to him, "You left me no choice, brother,"
Yeah,
meaning that.
because Optimus had a personal relationship with Megatron, which he did not have with, again, literal robot Satan.
But he did have a relationship with Sentinel Prime, who's basically robot Hitler.
Yeah, so that would actually give Optimus more reason to do that because he was betrayed by someone he trusted. So
Okay,
again, yeah, so if you had a mentor figure that killed one of your friends and then tried to genocide like people you're trying to protect versus having fought someone that you were close to as like a co-equal, the reactions are going to be very different, especially considering the fact that Sentinel was lying about his actions, whereas Optimus knew full well what Megatron was doing.
okay. Well, Kasaibu does make a good point. Why are we talking about Transformers now? Yeah, let's go back to Gamera.
Yeah. Oh, again.
So,
Well, then would you concede that your comparison to Optimus makes no sense?
um, I can't really say that because this is what I gained from studying either some of these characters and
But
then watching the
even if
movie.
you say that from what you're showing, it shows a lack of understanding of some of the material then.
All right. So as for Gamera, sure, in the Showa Gamera series, Gamera does kill, but once again, he's doing that to protect humanity.
In case a Gamera isn't.
What do you mean?
Heisei Gamera is in the first film trying to protect the Earth from the Gauss. Same thing from the Legion, and then again from the Gauss, and then later on from Iris.
Because that's not what Gamera was made for.
That
He's
is what he was made for. That is literally what Gamera was made for. Was in order to combat the Gauss.
in the original Showa era. I
That
meant.
would Yeah, and if we were to say that, well, actually, no, what you also argued was that Gamera changed to become a defender of the planet because we didn't want it to be a Godzilla clone. And we literally see Gamera doing just that in the Heisei era, which would make him consistent.
I don't know. To me, he does feel like minus Goji, but in a turtle costume. The more I think about it,
How?
he
Gamera
kills.
isn't mutated.
I didn't. It. I don't mean by mutation, but I mean like personality,
When
like
does Gamera in Guardian
mercifulness.
the Unit? When does Gamera in Guardian the Universe explicitly kill any human?
Um, and
It's
I know this is cheating, but in the beginning of Revenge of Iris, we literally see Gamera kill, destroy a building full with a mother and father in it, and that of course triggered Ariana's hatred for Gamera.
Yeah, that's not that's very different from Minus Goji, who intentionally tries to step on and kill people. So the comparison to Minus Goji makes no sense either. And
Okay, then
again, I said, where is Gamera in Guardian of the Universe explicitly trying to kill humans for the sole purpose of killing them specifically, like Minus Goji?
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Yeah, you're right.
So
If
you concede on
anything,
that point?
yeah, if anything,
Okay.
he's Snyderverse Superman.
How?
Um, they both of them or a farm.
Where is Gamera or farming in Guardian of the Universe?
Um, when Gamera comes out of the trees, he's all looking cool. When Gamera is roaring on the bay, he's also looking all cool. There's also that shot where civilians are fleeing from him, and then there's a red smoke or orange smoke from the background that's also making him look cool.
Yeah, that's a directorial choice. That has nothing to do with the character itself. And you actually bring up a good point for myself because you argue that Gamera has all these people fleeing from him. And then once again, Gamera does not explicitly try to kill any of the people running away from him in that movie.
Well, it's just that it's just that Gamera's supposed to be a friend of all children, so shouldn't the protagonists of the Heisei trilogy be children then?
Not necessarily.
And then being and then viewing Gamera as the symbol of hope.
Considering the fact that at the end of Gamera 2, they call him the Guardian of the Universe. He has a relationship with a younger character in what's it called, Guardian of the Universe. Attack of Legion is when they call him the Guardian of the Universe, and in Gamera 3, you literally see him deflect a super scalpel from Gauss in order to protect a child. So
Um, okay. Black Aruni said the main character of the Heisei Gamera movies is a child. Only in Gamera 3 is a literal child. And one is a teenager, and that's
a teenager is not an
child.
adult. So if we're gonna call a teenager, that is still not an adult.
That's also not a child. It's
even
still
if
the
even if we grant you this point, that still would make Gamera someone who's defending humanity, has a relationship with people other than adults. And remember, in Guardian of the Universe, he puts his hand in front of Asagi.
yeah,
Not
Soggy.
Asagi.
That's her.
No. He puts his hand in front of Miss Nagamine and the little child to protect them from the Gauss over the bridge.
Okay.
So he defends a child in the first movie, defends like younger teen kids like in Attack of Legion, and we see him also defend another child in Revenge of Iris.
Okay.
So
Well, well, about Soggy. Well, she is a child in the first movie, but then by the next movie, she's no longer a child. She's now an adult, a young adult. So, yeah.
so she's 15 in the first film,
Mm-hmm.
which if all the films take place essentially right after the other, that would make her 18. So she's like a teen by like a full blown teen young adult by the end of the film. So essentially has a child with her, or Gamera has a child with them throughout the entire series.
Okay. I'm gonna I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Yeah, have fun. Didn't he deliberately protect those people on the bridge? Yes, that is exactly what he does. And I saw this thing from S Armor, the visual of Gamera walking among flames and how it made me want to see more from this character. I don't even like the Hyper Gauss, they're bringing the Super Gauss. Actually we'll look up some we'll look at some Mezzo while we wait. That's a good scene. And as my thing freezes on me, I love that when that happens. But yeah, I did not realize until I saw this picture from Mezzo that these characters, the guy from Shin Godzilla and him from Gamera 3, were the same actor. I never realized that. And I'm gonna just pause that out for a second because I'm just gonna wait to see if it will bring me back. Oh, actually, that's perfect for my point. So I'm gonna leave that right there. Okay, so Gamera was defending the planet instead of humanity as a whole, but will defend people when he can. The second film even say that if humanity became, I think he became a threat, he would fight humanity. What are your thoughts on my jr5gi? I will give my thoughts next stream. To be fair, though, ChatGPT makes their arguments easier to understand. This is something else, as Tobey Maguire's symbiote Spider-Man once said. Does he look up and down before crossing the street? That would require me to be able to understand the argument to type it in the prompt to begin with. Y'all are ignoring the entire Final Fight of Revenge. Oh, we'll get to that. I just want to see if he'll make the point. And speaking of which, I always am wondering what everyone's favorite Gamera movie from the Heisei series is. I remember when I was but a wee lad, I always thought Gamera 3 was my favorite because it was edgy and it was fun and it had good music. And as I've grown up, I was like, no, it's the first one. And now my mind's kind of shifted towards thinking that probably I think I like Attack of Legion the most. But, you know. All right, am I going to show the artworks? I am going to show the artworks. That's going to be next stream. So for anyone who wants to post something, post it in stream submissions, and we'll do those at the start of the next post, the next stream that we do. Yes, I didn't mean to type. Yeah, I always hate autocorrects. I love the whole trilogy of Revenge of Iris because the Gamera design was fire. So here's the thing. I liked that. I think maybe that was one reason why I liked Gamera 3 so much, was because of that design. But as I've gotten older, I think that like that design is so big, so wide, and it hampered so much movement. And I think this also has to do with the fact that Iris's suit was also extremely complicated as well. It just didn't lend itself well to fight scenes all that much. Like I would say generally my favorite design for the Gamera series in the Heisei era is the Trauma Gamera design, because it has the sharp jaggedness of the Gamera 3 design, but it has the proportions closer to Gamera 2 and Gamera 1, which I would say Gamera 1's design, I think, has overall my favorite proportions. Gamera 2 and Gamera 3 share my favorite details. Gamera 3's design like has my favorite roar. I think it's deeper, although I could be wrong in that case. But I also like certain details like the elbow spikes. I like how they're hidden in the first two design. Well, the first design and the second design that popped out, but I know the Trauma suit doesn't have them popping out. So like overall, I'd say like Trauma Gamera is my favorite Gamera suit from the era. And in terms of my favorite villain, it's probably either Gauss or Legion. I like how the progression's nice. Like it's definitely one of those cases similar to the Heisei Godzilla design, where you see 84 and how subtle changes go across the franchise. But in Gamera's case, because it's a trilogy, it's more progressively distinct, which again, nothing wrong with. I don't know. Trauma Gamera is my favorite design. Let me pull it up. Let's do this. Did you see people, Paleo, Twitter, gaslighting themselves into liking the Dominion Giga? You know, Paleos are going to paleo. That's all I have to say when it comes to that. Paleos be paleoing. But as for Trauma Gamera, so with this Deferil right here, again, this version of it doesn't show the elbow spikes. This one does, but I think this is just a modified G3 or G2, but you can see here in the actual suit.
Okay, I'm back. And
present.
the more I think about it, it seems like I searched up how like it can like how Gamera's change in the Heisei era is just bothers fans because it undermines the emotional bond Gamera had with humanity, especially with children in the Showa era. And he feels more like a dangerous artificial force that happens to side with Earth. He doesn't really protect humanity. He's just destructive.
Okay. Well, considering the fact that Gamera also is destructive and disruptive of human actions across the Showa films, the only difference there is between that and the Heisei era is that Gamera is more explicitly aggressive and kills people in Gamera 3, because outside of that film, Gamera and Gamera 2 and Guardian of the Universe doesn't attack or kill people, really.
Mm-hmm. I also see Black Rooney making fun of me of looking out for stuff, and I'm pretty sure you would do the same thing when you're studying for stuff too, huh, Rooney?
That's not the
Anyways,
point that he's making, but continuing on.
yeah.
Considering the fact that also Gamera in the original Showa films is far more explicitly brutal to his enemies than Heisei Gamera is.
I mean, it's different context though. Once again, I've said this before.
The context is not that different.
I mean, it is because
How?
Gamera's protecting humanity in the Shaw era, but in the Heisei era, he's just protecting the Earth, and that just
Yes,
goes
so then
against
he's again protecting something. So therefore why would protecting humanity in this case explicitly require and allow for a greater level of brutality against the monsters? Especially when you argue that that wasn't something Godzilla could do.
Well, Gamera doesn't do it in the main city. In the Showa era, he was doing it in hillsides, I believe. He wasn't doing it in the metropolis.
The first fight that Gamera has against another monster is in Osaka.
Yeah, that was Barugon, I believe.
Yes, and then he later on stabs him in the neck and drowns him. So there's that. Gamera also fights near a town in Gamera versus Gauss. There's also the fight near the I think it's like the oceanography exhibit place thing for Virus. He also fights in a major city in Jiger. Then there's the aquarium he fights Zigra in. And the only example where Gamera is fighting somewhere where there's no humans that could possibly get hurt is on the planet that he fights Giron on, which again, Gamera is still extremely brutal against. As again, he drowns Baragon and essentially uses his tusk to jam them into his throat. He bites off Gauss's leg or feet and then bites Gauss's neck as well. In Virus's case, that's a little bit more justified considering what Virus does to him. In Jiger, he takes a little statue and stabs Jiger in the head. Giron, he uses the shurikens on Giron and then blows him up and literally uses the rocket and blows Giron in half. Zigra, again, less brutal, but overall, Gamera is far more brutal in the Showa era than he is in the Heisei era.
Still
what?
It's just that the way Kaneko just hates Gamera. That's also.
When did he say he hated Gamera? I'm gonna need a quote.
We just saw the quote where he views where for some reason he views Gamera as also invalid, even though that was the point
You
of
can
Gamera.
go back to the quote because that's not explicitly what he said, but we'll go back to it. Give me one moment to pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
Going back down. Kaneko says he has a similar opinion on Gamera movies, except for, surprise, surprise, the 3 that he directed, which doesn't really say anything overall besides possibly Gamera being sympathetic or a positive character, which is very vague since we could apply this far more to Godzilla than we could to Gamera. So I want to see an actual quote.
Well, I don't think Kaneko made an actual quote, but
well, again, if Mezzo is able to overall make this sentiment, then there's definitely quotes that you can draw from.
I'm not really the type of person that usually does search up quotes for certain people because
didn't you just try to look up? Actually, you already looked up this from Mezzo here, so is that an exception or you just can't find the quotes?
I just can't find it.
Okay. So, and if you can't find it, then with a lack of evidence, what you're saying can be dismissed without evidence.
Yeah, but I know he said it. I just know he said it. I just can't find a direct
Yeah, but
quote.
again, you can say he said it, but if you cannot find it, who can really attest to this besides from Mezzo's quote, which I will take Mezzo's quote into consideration only because of the fact that I trust him because he's always good at finding research and then providing links. In this case, you are only bringing up a source, which is a secondary source in this case, if anything, a tertiary source.
Hmm.
As well as I can also bring up the fact that in Behind the Kaiju Curtain, there's really nowhere that Kaneko talks about disliking Gamera as a character besides from his own
Well,
3 films that he made.
there is another thing I would also like to point out for more proof that Kaneko hates Gamera. He doesn't like he did not get for the production of the Heisei trilogy. Kaneko just wanted Gamera to be a normal turtle. He didn't want him to shoot fireballs. He didn't want him to fly. He didn't want none of that for Gamera. He just wanted Gamera to be completely normal, just
And
like
he
what
didn't
he
get what he
did with.
wanted, so therefore he was still able to make a fairly faithful Gamera. So even if he didn't want that, that would still mean that even against his wishes, he was still able to make a faithful Gamera.
Well, it was the studio most likely Dai most likely forced him to be as faithful, not because Kaneko was eager to do it either way. It's just that the studio forced him to be faithful. Because if Toho could let Kaneko make Ghidorah, Mothra, and Baragon as unfaithful as they are, then then he could have easily done the same thing for Gamera had Dai not been strict on him.
Um, Not exactly because they approached him to do it. So I would say that that's not necessarily true, like at all. As well as, again, you would have to present me with these claims. I have heard these claims supposedly, but I would need to see direct examples of this. And considering the fact that the earliest concepts we have from Gamera, such as those done by Higuchi and Maeda, show Gamera as very faithful to the original design. I don't really think that that is the case. If not, it's probably a mass misunderstanding of something Kaneko has said.
Well, I did watch it in a live stream from Up in the Depths many years ago. I don't know if it's still up, but it was talking about it was at the end of 2019, and they were talking about the most recent Godzilla movies at the time, G14, Shin, Polygon, and King of the Monsters. And one of the Up in the Depths with it was with other YouTubers, and I think Blue Nova was one of them.
Are you
I
talking
don't
about
know
the
who said it.
discussing characters in Godzilla movies, discussion featuring Blue
Here's the
Nova and the
thing:
like?
they actually did mention about for some reason the Heisei trilogy's um production, and they did say that, and that's where I did hear from the fact that Kaneko didn't want Gamera to be Gamera, but just a generic turtle.
I mean, again, we can go through it if anything, because there is at least 2 uploads of the stream. If it's the one with Blue Nova,
And no, it's I'll show you the link. I'll show you the link to it. I don't know if it's still up, but I'm gonna go find it.
okay. I haven't heard Blue Nova say anything in like years.
Because Blue Nova is a tourist.
How is Blue Nova a tourist?
Oh yeah, well, I'll talk about that later, but for now, I'm I found the video and I'll send you the link to it.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the video.
It has been sent.
Okay. Oh, it's this one.
Yeah, it's a live stream. So try to find the quote. Because I did remember
that would technically
one of the
be your that would be the preponderance of evidence would be on you to present this quote to me because it is part of your arguments. And this is a 2-hour live stream, which I have no problem checking through, but so I will give you some time to search for the quote, but it's a 2-hour live stream, and the fact that you can't you have any idea where it generally could lie in the grand scheme of this 2-hour live stream?
Oh, okay.
Because again, it is the preponderance of evidence would be on you to provide me with this quote because it helps your argument. But is there anything else that you'd want to provide in terms of your points about Gamera? Because again, there has been nothing presented to me that really supports the arguments that you're making.
I'm watching the video and I'm gonna find the quote. I mean, but
Okay.
It's almost near the end of the video. So yeah.
Alrighty. Something else going to be there. And in the meantime, we'll wait for this. If anyone has any questions that they might have for me, feel free to put them down here. I'll be glad to assist. Minecraft, it is the diggy diggies of the hole. And while we wait too, I could probably put on some Gigabash in the meantime, kids. Hopefully my thing doesn't die while I'm trying to do this. Let me remove that. Now I just need to load it up, which means for anyone watching, if you see a stream hitch, don't be surprised at all, because it's probably just from Gigabash being loaded up. Do. I know definitely now that I'm starting to do model making, if I could find a way to mod Gigabash, at least the PC copy, I should definitely put Zogura as a Rawa skin for myself. How would you describe it? I assume you're talking about the art style. Again, I will discuss that come next stream at the start. What's my beef with Paleo Twitter? Paleos, I think they're very insulated, have weird pet theories, generally are moral hypocrites, and yeah, it's just an echo chamber of hypocrites, and they are nasty people. Some of them are very nice, but like, I don't know, it's petty. It's like high school mean girls type of drama and behavior that I just have no interest in really associating with. Thoughts on my antediluvian park designs? They're very good in the sense that they are consistent to the depictions of dinosaurs and prehistoric life from that time period of how we were describing them. So I'd say they are very good. I was playing Dawn of the Monster before this. I wish we could get figures of the cast of that game and Gigabash. I thought there was Gigabash figures being made. I could be totally wrong. Let me share this screen here. And I know we don't need the music from the game's end. So what I will do is I will put on some music of my own. There we go. That's a vibe. Made by one of my editors. You can guess who it is in the comments below. And if anyone is curious, definitely go to them for work. They do good stuff. And if you can guess what Godzilla movie this is from, I'd be curious to see if anyone can guess what that is. I also thought I downloaded this. I might have to redo my install for this so I can get the DLC, because I thought I already had it. I know I haven't bought this. Let me just balance my audio just a little bit better. There you go, perfect. Have you seen the leaks? The leaks? No, I have not. Any leaks I see now, I just don't believe. A lot of crazy stuff happened. Joe Smo with the cookie. Thank you. So who are we facing? Let's do 5 and we'll just do random. Dun, 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 bum, 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 bum. It's Buzz Lightyear! Oh, I thought I had that. Do 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 dun 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 down bow. Dun 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 dun. Do. I need to really get good at this Megazord character, because the design's really cool. That's the one thing I always am fretting, because with gameplay footage, you always want to have good gameplay footage, but then you don't have really time to lab everything. Like, a lot of times stream is when I'm actually playing games. And Convo says, I hope we get more news regarding that shirt with the green Godzilla. Oh, the Southeast Asian one. I don't really know if that's gonna amount to anything. Maybe, we'll see. The Luminous Fairies and Mothra is getting a translation. I am working on a review because I did get an advanced reader's copy. There's... I love the fact that they actually decided to give this guy a playable spot, because he is such a cool design. Oh, and for anyone who does know this song, which I think is really technically only one person, if they know how long this track is, let's see how long it takes 05 to get his thing going. And I just realized my thing is, that's why I wasn't even moving. I did not realize that my controller had been nicked. I don't know why, it's been going in and out for some reason. I don't really get it, because the controller works fine, but I know this has definitely been why I don't play a lot of shooters, especially because I don't want to be a situation where I have a bad controller and for some reason online it just goes out and I lose a game. Like, that's something I hate. Come here, boy. Come here, boy. You're mine. Oh, wonderful. Rodan does have a novelization, actually. I hope I still have the tab for that. But yes, Rodan does have a novelization. I think like there was only like one thing I've seen of it, and like it was something I saw on, it was like online, it was like a listing for it, and I think that is the only place I've ever seen of the Ronin novelization. And I don't know whether it's like something that they made as a response to the movie or they did before, like they did with Mothra. There's a lot I'll have to say about the Mothra book, which actually it might get split up into two different it's going to probably be split into two different videos, because one I'm going to go over the review of the book and another comparing it to the Godzilla novel, because I guess spoilers for the Luminous Fairies of Mothra book, Godzilla is directly mentioned in the book, in that they mention how when Mothra larva comes ashore that it's different, and it's a different monster to what they've seen before, and it's bigger than the two Godzillas they'd seen previously. So it's a little bit of interconnectivity I wasn't expecting. But another problem I have with the Mothra book, and even the Mothra film as a whole, is that when you are dealing with Roliska as a nation, we know what it's a stand-in for, and as a result, it just feels, in a weird sense, more fake than the Godzilla series, or just the original Godzilla, because you're dealing with like a proxy nation. Yeah, the larva was the same size as Godzilla, like in being 50 meters, but I think it was like way longer in weight. I know, way longer in weight, way longer in length. And then the Mothra Imago form is like way bigger. Oh, you plan on making your comic in a little bit? Awesome, good for you, Antonio. Thoughts on Fangoji designs? I like Fangoji designs. My gripe with a lot of just Fangoji stuff in general is that because they are Fangojis, there is little that is done with them outside of, hey, here's a cool design I did, which is awesome. Really, I like, it's good to expand your art horizons in that sense. I just feel like in some cases you could put more effort into making like your own original kaiju material. But the other problem too is that when it comes to the community, sometimes they're Godzilla fans, not kaiju fans, in the sense of, if Godzilla's not involved, they probably won't like look at it unless there's a lot, like a big push. Dun, dun, dun. Do you see Matt Frank's updated Godzilla designs? Yes, I did see the updated designs. They're okay. Like, for me, it's like there is a novelty to seeing these designs, like for the first time in so long, get like updates to them. But I'd have to do a lot to impress me. Like, the Godzilla design was always okay. I don't remember what's the next design that he showed off. I want to say it was Mothra, right? The Mothra design was okay. I will say that, like, I liked his
I'm back.
Gorosaurus design more, and 05 is back. Did you find the timestamp?
No, just wanted to tell everyone that I'm still here. I didn't rage bait. I didn't rage quit. I'm still looking for it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's neat. I just don't have a huge investment in the Neo designs. Like, they're a very fun part of my childhood, but is what is. What color should Sawa is another one that I really want to get better at, but now I just want to see what color I'll use. I like this one. I just realized this one's name is Garnet, and I really want to make a We Are the Crystal Gems meme joke that I know some people probably know exactly which one I'm thinking of, but I would not be able to say that on stream without getting my channel absolutely nuked. But you. How do I use you? Ooh, okay. Okay. So that's that attack. Blazar, I've heard, is really fun to play. I think Minecraft said it. Which, again, I just need to spend more time labbing the other characters. They are fun. Like that was pretty cool. Because I've gotten to such a flow state understanding how Rawa plays that, like, learning combos for other characters is definitely something I need to... Ooh, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I just need to learn. Get in the lab, boy. I don't think I have Intestine Inspector. Oh, wow. Wait, did that actually block his thing? Interesting. Oh, wow. I think I never did a full review of Giga Bash. My problem with it, to some degree, is the fact that the Giga attack thing here that you get for these characters is so useful because the first person to get it usually can win a match because there's so much knockback that comes from this form that it's really hard for it to come back. But I love this design. Is alien in just all the right ways. I know for T-Rex it was debunked, if I remember correctly, but I'm sure people are still claiming that all theropod dinosaurs have feathers. I know there's some people who have a weird obsession with that. Like, for example, actually, Primitive War, the book is really good. The movie, I still haven't seen it yet, but I know a ton of people gave the film flack for not having the feather T-Rexes that they have in the book. My thing with that is, if they care about scientific accuracy, like that crowd, then the different T-Rex design shouldn't bother them. I think the only reason why people, like, a lot of paleos liked Primitive War as a series was because it had like a feathered T-Rex in it. So like it subscribed to the pet theory at the time, which was that T-Rex had feathers. But then the moment it stopped having that is when people just turned on it. Like, there's so many people when I was being like, oh, Primitive War was never good. But I also think generally, like, I don't really think paleos are even capable of understanding a story like Primitive War. Not even sound in like a like in a pretentious, you need a high IQ to understand Primitive War. I just don't think it's a story that most of them can actually understand or tell with any sincerity or really feel for. Look at my guy. That's love. He's like, it's like I'm coming home from my job. I just need a beer. Ninja Star. Oh no! Grenade! I pulled a sneaky on you right there. Okay. So paleos aren't human? No, paleos aren't people. Oh no! I thought I was gonna... Actually, this will probably be better because I'm in the giant form. Yeah, it's a lot better. Boy, bruv. You got a license for that. That's a really cool effect right there to see him crash all his building. Like, bruv, welcome to London. The Heisei fan has arrived watching from Turkey. Oh, hello. That's why if I ever get my Planet of Dinosaurs remake or Antediluvian Park story off the ground, I'd ignore their sentiments and just say that feathers wasn't the point. Yeah, just anytime you can ignore people who are like, where are the feathers on the dinosaurs, then you have probably made a good product. I will support it. Papa Gears is very much Ultra Kaiju's, but well, that's the thing. Garanga and Papa Gears are both very Ultra Kaiju. They're very Ultra Monster inspired, which is cool. And it's like that's one thing I also love is that there's all this Ultra what's it called? Ultra representation you have in the game. I'm gonna be honest, I was not expecting to see Tiga and God, I forget her name now. Because I'm trying to focus and remember names. I was not expecting to see a Tiga rep, but Tiga is my favorite Ultra. Just like I love his design. The added armor bits on him are very cool. But I was expecting to see Bolton, Red King, Gomer. Those were the monsters I was expecting to see. So it was very interesting to see Tiga appear. And now Kiryu, like looking at this design, I love Kiryu's a fun monster to play with, but he has such little stopping power. Like I love zooming around the map with him, getting the space. Like this is like fun just to do it like this. I do feel like a machine here, but like this right here, as I fail to land it, this no. I took a stock. I'm gonna miss this shot, I know for a fact. I think. No, I actually got it. Wow. I think I'm gonna miss the absolute zero. Yeah. Oh, I missed that. I did the wrong attack. And for anyone who is like wondering why I'm just talking about Gigabash at this point, it's because 05 has a supposed quote to add to his point that he is looking through a 2-hour live stream to see if he can find. And as I've already stated, the preponderance of evidence is on him. I guess kudos to him for actually taking this long to look for it, but we'll see if it actually adds to the point. Let me go back here. I definitely recommend Lacro, Noma's fan films. They're really impressive, especially Retribution of Earth and Nebulon X. I will give those a watch. What are your thoughts on Hakaishin Godzilla? I'm not familiar with it just by the name, so I'd probably have to see a picture. If you put it in Art General in the Discord, if you are there, I will definitely be able to give my thoughts. And Godzilla. I love the fact that we have Godzilla in this game, but wow, does Godzilla feel very much, unfortunately, like a Rawa clone. That's not a problem for me. It's just that it really shows just how much of an awesome tribute Rawa is, because he's so like Godzilla, but so very different looking. But just anytime I play with Godzilla, I just feel like I'm just restricted by his moveset, because it's very similar to Rawa's without being exactly the same. There's like certain things, like for example, what you're seeing, the like that right there, the beam up, like, which I feel like is kind of like a King of the Monsters reference, is very effective. I think it's more effective than what you see with Rawa's, where I think placement's more important. Well, this one you kind of stick to it, like once you get into the hitbox, you just sort of brought up with it. I also really love this color set for him, because it really feels like it's Marvel Godzilla. Not Marvel, Dark Horse Godzilla. And like Minecraft said in the chat there, yeah, because that beam, there is so much stopping power, and it has so much knockback. Where I think this is a level 5 AI, so this is not the strongest AI you can go against, But against like AIs, I can just do this for as long as I want. And if you have pretty good like shot placement, you're able to do pretty well for yourself. Oh, wow. Excuse me. And it's not this. And it's not that either. I'm trying to remember what the exact attack is. Yeah, it's the dash that I'm thinking of. There it is. Let me. Oh. Nope, it's not that either. What is the attack? The tail swipe's good too. It's not. I'm probably just forgetting how to do the move, which we might just go into lab 4. But it is cool that his giant form is Burning Godzilla. Speaking of, the fact that we're probably getting a like 2000s Burning Godzilla is pretty cool. Although we technically got it with Critical Mass Godzilla from Unleashed, but this is like a true aesthetically similar Burning Godzilla. The fact that I didn't get any of that is a travesty, man. Gotcha. Godzilla game with Arkham Knight's combat. I think you mean Arkham combat. That could be good. I think that instead of like counters, mixing something up with like a Sekiro style kind of parry, but like with Godzilla. So essentially, perfect counters allow you to take no damage. Others, you're able to sort of absorb a little bit of it. Like, I do think that would be interesting for a Godzilla game to have Arkham-ish style combat. But let me back up just a second. And we are at 2 hours at this point in the stream, which I thank you all for coming on, supporting me as you have. I want Nemesis and Titanicus and Gigabash. So there is the next DLC that is coming out. I am tentatively excited to see what it is. Part of me would want the next DLC to be more original, a Titans for the game, but I think it's going to be a crossover. My hope is that if it's a crossover, make it Gamera. Give us Gamera. Please. Passion Republic Games, I'm begging you. We need Gamera in this game. The flying turtle. No one likes the flying turtle like I do. At this point, we never got a third gemstone short. It would have been. I would have loved to seen the designs of Mechagodzilla or King Caesar. Yes. The lack of future gemstone stuff is sad because I, for one, I'm not the biggest fan of Gigan Rex or Gigan Miles, but I do like the Megalon design. And you are back. What was it?
I couldn't find it, I think, but I do remember it coming from that video.
So how long did you take to do that?
I tried to skip some parts because live streams are, of course, long. But I just remember it being at the end, but I just couldn't find it.
Okay. Well, in this case, because you couldn't find them, and once again, without evidence, a claim can be dismissed as such. So the idea that Kaneko didn't want to do these things for Gamera, could it be true? Possibly, but unless you can provide me with quotes stating otherwise, we will have to discount that as not being relevant to the discussion. So is there anything else that you want to discuss when it comes to Gamera?
Okay, well, there was these trivia parts of Wikizilla for this version of Gamera and how to handle him. I will copy and paste them to your Discord.
I can just go to the Wikizilla Gamera page. It's under specifically the Gamera main page or specifically the Heisei Gamera page.
The Heisei Gamera page. You want me to share your screen?
I can share my screen, so that's fine. Let's go there.
All right.
Once you see it on my screen,
and
just
go
let
to
me
the
know if
trailer.
this is the right page. Is it this one right here?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Let me see. All right, right here, there were significant disputes over Gamera's character during the production of the Heisei trilogy amongst shareholders. Shusuke Kaneko and Kazunori Ito wanted to avoid any connection between Gamera and children, with the character instead becoming a threat to humanity. They also envisioned a more machine-like Gamera who would emit mechanical sounds, produce bioluminescence, and spot shape-shifting body parts. However, many executives and Showa staff, including Nissan Takahashi, were strongly against such ideas, causing delays in production. Narukai was especially displeased with the storyline of Gamera 3 and Kaneko's provocativeness, including his disdain for the Showa Gamera. As Ito tried to exclude children from the films and depict Gamera as not caring about humans at all, like how humans see ants. It was only due to strong demands from executives that such scenes appeared at all. Various ideas of Gamera killing humans unintentionally, such as by landing in Shibuya, were also scrapped due to their requests. Seeing this, Kaneko requested to insert the scene of Shibuya in Gamera 3 of Gamera protecting a child from hypergals. This, along with the financial success of the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy, largely influencing the production of Gamera the Brave, caused executives to announce that they would not approve any Heisei trilogy as scenarios. Therefore, one of the principal models of the 2006 film was to give Gamera back to children. Toto's endearing appearance was a part of making the film an antithesis to the Heisei trilogy. While the advent of Gamera and original films were designed to appeal to fans of those films, Kaneko is aware of the sentiment against his trilogy and is somewhat vocal critical of the 2006 film, commenting the "I'm the right one." See?
Okay, that's better. So in this case, he specifically doesn't. So the idea that Gamera shouldn't shoot fire, that's never mentioned here. He does state that he wants Gamera to be a threat to humanity, which, if again from your original argument that you made about Godzilla about faithfulness, would mean that yes, Gamera was originally intended to be a threat to humanity. So this would be Kaneko making Gamera a more faithful character in this sense, including things like machine sounds. I'm not sure necessarily what that means. Producing
Okay.
bioluminescence is fine. Shape-shifting body parts. Again, Gamera is literally able to turn into a flying saucer, so shape-shifting body parts wouldn't really be too far from the realm of what the original Gamera could do. And since you also said that Gamera is like Homelander, considering the fact that Kaneko directly requested using the scene of um, Gamera protecting a child from hypergauss, shows that Gamera is far from Homelander as a character, or even Bayverse Optimus Prime as he originally made the connection to. As for Gamera the Brave, although yes, it does bring back a more child-friendly aspect to the Gamera series, it also goes off in its own direction as well, which shies away from other aspects of the Gamera series, like the original Gamera or Gamera versus Barugan. And we really only see Gamera overtly appealing to children with Gamera versus Gauss, and more so in Gamera versus Virus.
Okay. So, you want to talk about the climax of Gamera 3 now, or
Sure. Explain what's wrong with it.
it's just so much. There's like so many destructions. It's a very kind of a dumb part for Gamera's intelligence,
How?
and because Gamera could like easily fly and take Iris to a different part of the countryside. He could like fight him there, and then Gamera's
Considering the fact that Iris was able to completely outclass Gamera in a physical fight, it's more than likely Gamera wouldn't have been able to do that. And since we also see Gamera and Iris fighting in the sky, and Gamera wasn't really able to press Iris all that much, and was actually Iris was able to draw blood from Gamera. Once again, it's very unlikely that Gamera would have been able to do this.
yeah, but still, maybe if Gamera's supposed to be the supposed protector of everything in life, then maybe he should like take the fight somewhere else and not in.
Except he probably wasn't able to. And considering the fact that Gamera and Iris are really only, actually quite literally only a metric ton apart from each other, and Gamera wasn't able to push Iris away and was in fact pressed by Iris physically, it shows that Gamera couldn't have taken the fight elsewhere if he wanted to, not to mention the fact that, yes, they evacuated the city.
Yeah, but there were still civilians running. I don't think it was evacuated completely.
I never said it was. I just said that they evacuated the city. So, and
Okay.
considering the fact that, once again, Iris posed a greater threat to the world. So as a result, Gamera pressing the threat as quickly as he could was more important.
Okay, but and then Gamera being stuck with the spear, even though he could have easily like blown the spear up and not just let it and not just hit his blow up his arm. He could have like easily destroyed the spear with his fire, but he
Except for the fact
didn't.
that we literally see Gamera try to use his fire once, and Iris's tendrils, which have the same color and texture as the spears, were able to deflect Gamera's fire. It's more than likely that he wouldn't have been able to do that.
I'm talking about the spear, the large spear that was pinning Gamera's hand,
Exactly. These
not
bits here.
the smaller ones.
Yeah, and they're clearly the same color, which probably means they're made out of the same materials. So
Okay,
if
can you?
Gamera couldn't pierce
I don't.
those,
I remember. Okay,
let's go to a different one.
I don't remember Gamera firing a fireball at the spear, so I'm pretty sure
He literally tries to hit Iris with
you
his fire
might
from
have
the
watched a
sky.
different movie.
No. Do you want to? How much do you want to bet on that? How much money do you want to bet that we see
yeah, show me
Gamera
a
use
clip
his
of
fire on Iris?
the fire on his spear. Gamera
Yeah.
firing Iris's spear at one time.
No, I literally said that because they are made out of the same material, it's more than likely that he wouldn't be able to pierce the spear if he wasn't able to pierce the tendrils. So, what the argument that you're making doesn't really make any sense at all. So is that nope?
Okay then.
There we go. All right. There it is. So right here, we see the tendrils, which are made out of the same material as what is on the spear hands. Because of their color, you can infer that they are the same, are able to deflect Gamera's fire. So therefore, more than likely, Irish's spear hands are even more durable. And if we go even further, let's stop. Right there. Even if we were to argue the Gamera had to blow up his arm instead of blowing up the spear, if he's blowing up his arm, which is able to be blown off, more than likely the spear, which would be less durable according to your logic, would also get blown up here too. So if anything, Gamera realized that he wouldn't have been able to get out of that situation.
Okay. Oh, so while you were doing that, I actually did go back to Messel's page for his Gamerathon, and there's one part for his when he's talking about Guardian of the Universe. He says,
Link
"For
me.
it's going to be Gamera's long-awaited return. The first time we see him, he's emerging
Link
from
it.
the water."
Link it. Link it.
All
Link
right.
it.
All right. Okay. I will. There's proof
Have a
that
good one, God Goji.
about yeah. There's
Yeah,
proof
send a link.
that Kaneko didn't want Gamera to fly,
Do you have a link?
and I will.
I-
Yes, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay, there we go. Visit site. Let's check this. I'm going to return. Serve the surprise of Gamera's fight for later, but it reminds me that Kaneko didn't like the idea. He never said that he didn't want to include it. He just didn't like the idea. So, once again, that's not saying that he did not want Gamera to fly. It's just that he does not like the idea. So, those are two different statements that you're making.
Okay, then.
Anything else?
Well, the ending.
What about it?
It's so weird that despite everything Gamera has done in the trilogy, he's still forgiven. He's still
Yeah,
forgiven
because
as his protector. He's only
yeah, because he
protecting the
saved the
planet,
world
not
twice. If
yeah.
hypothetically, if the Earth is safeguarded against giant man-eating monsters that want to eat humanity, an alien race that wants to take over the planet, whether Gamera is explicitly protecting humanity or not doesn't really matter because ultimately Gamera's actions mean more humans survive in the long run. Not to mention the fact that Gamera not specifically protecting all of humanity would make sense for a third party monster like Gamera. And considering the fact that we, again, see in the Heisei series, Gamera would get in the way of humans doing things that he felt were against the interest of the planet. Gamera tried to stop the humans from releasing Jiger in Gamera versus Jiger, which is one of the later Showa films. So the idea that Gamera wouldn't do things to endanger humans in order to protect the greater whole is a fabrication.
Okay. So now now let's talk about the comparisons between the MonsterVerse and this trilogy now.
Okay. Explain why that's relevant.
Well, because it's kind of funny how it's just the same criticisms that people use for the MonsterVerse Godzilla and how the MonsterVerse Godzilla is not a good version of the character because it doesn't really feel like Godzilla, but actually more like Gamera. Heisei
Okay.
Gamera.
Yeah, let's go through that then. I can start this off. So when it comes to the origins, unlike with the vast majority of Godzilla origins, the MonsterVerse Godzilla is not a product of man's hubris. It is instead a naturally occurring creature that is able to use nuclear energy for its means. Godzilla protects the planet and, by extension, humanity, but more specifically, the balance of humanity with nature, which is something the Gamera also does. And overall, Godzilla will do things that will endanger more humans, similar to how Gamera does in the Heisei trilogy, and to a lesser extent, the Showa series as well. Whereas in the case of GMK, the themes of GMK and Godzilla's actions are more consistent with the aggressive nature of the first Godzilla and the sentiments surrounding the first Godzilla. And its story has a complete beginning, middle, and end. Even though Godzilla could possibly return, it is the same sentiment shared by the first Godzilla. Because, like in that film, even though Godzilla died, they say that somewhere else in the world, another Godzilla would appear if nuclear tests continued. So again, GMK Godzilla is more consistent thematically to the first Godzilla and just Godzilla as a whole. The MonsterVerse Godzilla is, which the MonsterVerse Godzilla is more in line with the later Showa era Godzillas because it is taking the meta concept of Godzilla and applying it to just a film franchise which focuses on Godzilla defending the planet from new threat after new threat, which is what the Showa series did in the Heisei series would do as well, but to a lesser extent because it did not go on as long.
Well, I wanted to bring this up because it's just kind of odd that the first three MonsterVerse movies, G14, KOTM, and GVK, did borrow elements from the Gamera trilogy, and it's I don't know why I brought this up. I just wanted to. It's just it's just it just shows how I think it's mostly because Heisei Gamera and MonsterVerse Godzilla Helmet is that despite of course being different characters, even though they're like big deviations from their original counterparts, both fans are endorsing them. Although Heisei Gamera to a much bigger extent than MonsterVerse Godzilla, of course.
Explain what you mean by Monster vs. Godzilla borrows elements from Heisei Gamera, because these traits of Monster vs. Godzilla are similar to Heisei Gamera, but they are not exclusive to that character.
Well, at least in how the plots play out in the film, um, flying monsters are wake up in the world. That happens in
Like Ghidorah the Three-Headed
G1
Monster.
and G14, and then the an apex a gigantic apex predator rises to take it down. Gamera and Godzilla. I'm not talking about. I'm not referring to Ghidorah. I'm referring to the Mutos.
No, no, I'm just saying that like everything that you're saying would apply to this film, which if I'm getting my yes, so everything you're saying that is being talked about as closer to the Gamera series was already done in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, which predates the entire Gamera series.
Well, I'm talking about G14 being similar to Gamera 1. Anyways, the military views the apex predator as a bigger threat, while they see the weaker monsters as the lesser threat.
They
Then,
don't see that in 2014. We literally see them on the aircraft carriers just following Godzilla. They never see Godzilla as the greater threat.
I'm just reading. I'm sorry, I'm just reading the chat. They're just so angry. I just don't know why. Okay,
No,
and
don't focus on chat, focus on me. So again, where in 2014 is Godzilla considered a greater threat than the Mutos?
well, the military not having faith in God, not having faith in Godzilla could
That's
easily
not the
solve this
same
on
as
its own.
saying that Godzilla is the greater threat than the Mutos. That's not the same thing.
All right. Well, after a big horrible thing event happens that just shows that the weaker monsters are actually much more of a bigger threat than previously thought. The
Again,
military
the
puts their
military
faith.
always saw the Mutos as a threat. They were never seen as a lesser threat to Godzilla because they'd already been studying Godzilla for a while. So the idea that they needed to attack Godzilla more than the Mutos isn't shown in the film. The only reason why they attack Godzilla at all is because he gets close to the bridge, which has civilians on it. So the military is acting within the best interest of humanity.
Okay, and then okay, well, as I was saying, the military puts their faith on the apex predator. The apex predator defeats the smaller monster in such a kind of badass way, and now for the both Gamera 2 and King of the Monsters, the apex predator wakes up again because he feels the presence of an alien monster
So
about to
real quick
rise.
before you say anything, Gauss is outside of the smaller Gauss. The final Gauss, which Gamera fights, that the military puts faith in him, is larger than Gamera. So the idea that the military is finally putting faith in Gamera to fight a smaller monster doesn't really make a whole lot of sense either.
Okay, well, and then and then and okay, as for then the apex for the sequels again, the apex predator is brutally injured because the military intervened, but this allows the alien monster to survive.
When in
And
Gamera
now
2 do the military intervene to stop Gamera and cause him to get injured? Because
I
that
read
does not
this
happen
on
in Gamera 2.
well, I read this on Wikizilla, and I did remember reading parts of this.
Gamera does fight the military technically in Gamera 3, but not in Gamera 2.
Okay,
If
well,
anything, Gamera 2 is where Gamera and the military have the best relationship because they help him defeat Mother Legion. Not to mention Ghidorah and Mother Legion aren't very similar at all either.
okay, well, then the extraterrestrial monsters unleash a hive mind of more weaker but still formidable creatures on certain parts of human civilization. I'm not saying around the globe because obviously it was way different in KOTM and Legion.
If you're saying
Um,
that they're very different, then therefore it's not a good comparison either. Because the circumstances surrounding the Legion Swarm versus the Titans is not the same either, again.
okay, then the Apex Predator gets a power up, and later on, the Apex Predator teams up with the military against the extraterrestrial life form. Then the Apex Predator gets a another power up that defeats the alien in the most brutal way possible. There's also like some worrying tensions that maybe the apex predator will turn its back on humanity one day. And even though Godzilla vs Kong is obviously not similar to Revenge of Iris, there are still some similarities where it does seem like the apex predator, where it does seem like they were right, and the apex predator has become hostile towards mankind with them destroying one part of the city, and then humanity automatically declares them as threats to mankind. And then there's a character that hates the apex predator because of different reasons, but they hate the apex predator. And then finally, the only other similarity between the two movies is that there is the apex predator wasn't really evil this entire time. It was just one big thing that was causing this whole mayhem that had the apex predator act seemingly destructive in the first place. Other than that, yeah,
Again, those comparisons could be applied to other Godzilla movies that predate the Heisei Gamera trilogy. So
I
those
don't
aren't
know.
really good comparisons either.
From watching the Gamera trilogy and the MonsterVerse, it does seem familiar. And once again, I'm comparing this because both the Heisei Gamera and MonsterVerse Godzilla are deviations from previous incarnations. That's why. It's because they're such different characters with different personalities. Could you even call them the same character?
Yes, because in the Heisei Gamera series, Gamera's general sentiment towards humanity is pretty much the same as it is in Gamera versus Barugon and Gamera versus Gauss. And with Monster vs. Godzilla, yes, those traits are pretty similar to late and some early Showa Godzilla material. It just doesn't always add up to a cohesive whole.
Okay.
And
What else?
again, considering the fact that there's so much similarity that Gamera has with his original counterpart, and going back to Godzilla, GMK Godzilla having so much familiar with the original, how would Kaneko not understand these characters, even if he doesn't necessarily like or agree with certain design choices or ideas around them? You'd still have to preface and explain how Kaneko doesn't understand these characters when he clearly does in anything that you presented so far. It's mostly preference.
I don't know. It's his opinions on certain kaiju films just do rub me the wrong way
That
because
is irrelevant to his understanding of the characters, because he may not like something that does not mean he does not understand it. I don't particularly find The Godfather to be a entertaining movie, but I understand the quality behind it.
okay, well, Sea Monster is saying again, what does this have to do with?
Again,
What does this
focus
have
on
to,
focus on what I said, not the chat.
okay, sorry.
So again,
Well, it's just that Kaneko does seem to think that his in his own world, the only things that matter, the only things in fiction that matter are just his own stuff and his own
except that's also not true, because he has, from the quote that you presented, likes Godzilla movies that are a certain way, and that would include films that he did not make. So the statement that you're making does not make sense either.
well, it's just that he watched Gojira and he thought that that was he thinks that his Godzilla is very similar to the original Godzilla, even
Which it
though
is.
it's not.
It is.
Godzilla.
It very much is. We can go through the logic tree again if you want.
I mean, I don't know, but
Again, if you say it doesn't, then I'd like to hear the arguments again, and I can go through the debunks again.
it's gonna. I don't want to make this sound repetitive, but
Oh no, this is part of the fun. We all like repetitive stuff here. So again, just make the arguments. and we can hear it again. We can go through the logic tree.
Yeah, like I said again. So for the conclusions, like literally, Kaneko just doesn't really get Godzilla in Gamera.
Except he
Godzilla,
clearly does from everything that we've got over
Kaneko
here.
just Kaneko turned Godzilla into a slasher villain,
That's not
and
what a slasher villain is either.
okay, well, akin to a slasher villain,
Not even that either.
and even though that wasn't even part of who Godzilla was and how he was
Godzilla
created,
killed thousands of people, hundreds, you could say, and did not care, and in fact did a lot in order to specifically attack people. So the idea that Godzilla wasn't a slasher villain could definitely be applied to the original.
and as for Gamera, Gamera was turned into basically the kaiju equivalent of Snyderverse Superman, where he does this exact
Qualify
same
the statements,
lines.
please. Qualify it.
Gamera,
Qualify it. Wait, nope. Qualify it.
Snyderverse Superman, and in Heisei Gamera
Qualify
kill.
it. Nope. Qualify it. I want you to qualify it first.
Okay, wait. What do you mean by qualify?
Explain your reasoning with facts and evidence. Because I want us to roll it back because you're still saying that GMK isn't similar to 54 at all. So I want you to qualify with that with some evidence or quotes or anything that actually supports the statement being made.
Well, the thing is, I'm not really good when it comes to film criticism, but this is just the
So
way.
wait, if you're not good at making film criticism, then what stock would anyone have in you making the statement to begin with? Because you've just undermined the point that you have made.
I don't know, but
Well, how would you not know then?
well, it's just really difficult to understand because from what I've gathered from many other people, it does seem like it is a common statement that several films do have this one message and this one clear theme, but sometimes
What are you
other
referring to?
directors,
What are you referring to?
well, Gojira and GMK, but
And that theme is
and that theme is nuclear devastation is bad, and
not really the
from
theme of GMK, but it is a tertiary one. But okay.
for the original, I mean,
You
it's
said
that
for 54 and GMK, so yes, I would say definitely for GMK that is
because
there.
that's if it's not that's not the theme for GMK. So if
It is one
Kaneko
of the
said he was
themes.
if Kaneko claimed he was doing if Kaneko claimed he was making his Godzilla more closer to the original, then maybe he shouldn't have Godzilla fighting other monsters and Godzilla not being too evil and just having
Again,
him.
Godzilla is very much evil in the first film, and once again, why would Godzilla not have to fight another monster for a Godzilla film that is trying to be similar to 54 and to be not faithful? That doesn't make sense.
Well, because 54 was just Godzilla himself, just destroying Tokyo.
And Raids Again has the same themes, whether regardless of its quality, it has the same themes as the original.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna charge my computer real quick.
Real quick, I forget who it was who said it. I think it was Lau who said it. I don't dislike The Godfather. I'm just not I think it's a good film. I just don't particularly love it as a film, if anyone's wondering. But I know he doesn't understand it. Trust me, I have dreamt it. You can't say that Kaneko doesn't get Godzilla or Gamma without proving it. I know, I just didn't vibe with it. It's all vibes, man. Like, I think they're very, very good movies. I'm just What do you even say to that? What I'm saying right now. And I know Blackhead had asked for me to do something. No, I will not do it because this is fun for me. And I know it's painful for you. So Open the stream. Let me in. Let me in. We'll give it maybe. Let's go for like another half an hour, maybe. I may not open up stream. I may open up the following stream. We'll see. We shall see. In the meantime, how is everyone doing right now? You all having fun? I know I'm having fun. Back to some bashing of the gigas. Everyone wants a piece of them too, which is what's even funnier about this. I can't win. They jumping me. And as much as like I love our mosh pit discussions, obviously in this case, everyone's gonna be against him. So I'm like, do I really do this? Do I really? Because that might be a little unfair if you ask me. But want to see more original kaiju? Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm back again. So
all right, cool. I'm gonna
now
what we'll do is let me just move down.
Maybe make a conclusion.
You still haven't qualified the statements that you've made, so we can go through that first.
Okay, so as for the qualification, yeah, sometimes you do love certain movies, but
no, because I'm saying that you still haven't directly stated how Godzilla GMK isn't faithful to 54. You still need to qualify that statement that you've been trying to make, but you still haven't provided with any direct evidence to prove this point.
Well, Ishiro Honda was when making Godzilla. Sure, Ishiro Honda wanted Godzilla to be a destructive creature, and he did definitely want it to be a tragic creature, but he didn't want Godzilla to be evil. He just wanted to portray Godzilla as a neutral creature. But because
how is Godzilla a neutral creature if he's directly of his own volition killing things?
Well, Godzilla just here Godzilla's just lashing out on humanity because humanity
except
were
the
doing
humans that he's lashing out with aren't the ones who committed the nuclear test against him. So the idea that Godzilla is lashing out against the humans who did specifically these actions to him does not make sense.
Well,
as that also undermines the theme of nuclear devastation because that's what Godzilla is meant to represent.
Well, the thing is, Godzilla is, I don't think he knows what is a Japanese person is because he doesn't care if that group of people is American, Japanese, British, or Chinese, or whatever.
Well, you just said that Godzilla is lashing out because of what was done to him.
In general.
Can you prove that? Because we never see Godzilla attack anything besides Japanese vessels.
Well, I'm just saying Godzilla is just getting revenge on humanity in general, not
except he never attacks anything besides Japanese, besides the Japanese in the first film. So once again, that doesn't make any sense.
I don't think it makes sense that you think Godzilla knows who the Japanese are because
actually there is considering the fact that Godzilla is shown numerous times throughout the film directly trying to attack people. Other sources outside of the films itself and the people behind it have stated Godzilla is specifically attacking the Japanese, and it would also fit more with the themes that they were trying to explain about nuclear devastation and what that meant for Japan as a whole.
So Godzilla representing America.
No, Godzilla does not represent America. Godzilla specifically represents the idea of nuclear devastation, but is specifically told through the lens of the Japanese people and the unique relationship they have with this particular issue because they're the only country that is bombed. Kaneko himself, as well as Honda, have all stated that Godzilla never represented America.
All right, then. So that just proves my point that Godzilla is getting revenge on humanity in general, not...
He's not trying to get revenge on specifically humanity in general. That doesn't prove your point at all. So,
okay.
What's anything else you want to do to try to qualify your point?
Um, well, I just wanted to continue that while certain directors will definitely love a movie, especially if it's a very influential or historical or classic one, they will definitely misunderstood what made it so good and just
Except Kaneko
exaggerated.
actually very much understands what is going on. And although Kaneko is trying to be faithful, he's not trying to make a one-to-one of the original Godzilla. So as a result, once again, the point that you're making is not supported by any direct evidence, unless you want to
Well,
qualify with some kind of statements.
Godzilla in the Wikizilla, the GMK Godzilla is listed as a mythical creature from
And Godzilla
every
was a
other
mythical
Godzilla.
creature in 54 as well. He's
Um,
literally a god on Odo Island in the first film.
no, Wikizilla
Yes.
doesn't list
What it
any other
what
Godzilla except
what do the Odo Island people do when it comes to Godzilla? They literally worship him and give him sacrifices.
yes. But
So
of
that would make
course, the
him what? A
Godzilla.
mythical creature.
Hmm. Well, okay. Well, a mythical creature in a
That's not just
sense
well,
that.
that's just literally what's in the film.
All right then. Well, I don't know. I just don't know. Just for me, it
You
just
may not
seems like.
then clearly the thing has nothing to do with like an objective lack of understanding on Kaneko's part and more your personal disinterest or dislike of Kaneko's work. And as you've
I'm
already
not
stated,
saying I hate Kaneko's work. I love the
wait,
Heisei Gamera
listen,
trilogy.
wait. I never said that you hated Kaneko, but it is very clear that you do not particularly understand or like his material based on the evidence that you've provided. You have also already stated that you are not necessarily the best when it comes to film criticism. So, therefore, it is logical to surmise that your understanding of Kaneko and his work and its relation to other things in the franchise may not be up to par.
Hmm. Still, I think now I'm ready to read to let out my conclusive thoughts on this whole on my thoughts on these iterations of two of Japan's most popular kaiju.
I mean, you are more than
So,
welcome to do that, but you still have to. I still want to see some kind of qualifications or prefaces or really any kind of evidence actually displayed when it comes to the points being raised, which I'd say would make more sense if you just concede to the points that are presented because you haven't really provided too much in the way of actual evidence.
okay. So, and as for Gamera's case, it's maybe I know I'm not really the type of person to say fans know what better than several other filmmakers, but in this case, Kaneko was obviously a big Gamera hater. So,
Except
and
he's not.
change.
He's just dislikes certain aspects of it. And if he was really such a big hater, then he probably would not have decided to make a trilogy of films. So once again, you are making a statement that is prefaced with nothing and supported by nothing.
Okay, well, well we did. Like the comments
Focus
are
on
just
me, not the chat.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm sorry. I'm trying. So, so yeah, it's very obvious that there are directors out there that are not a fan of specific things. Like I said, Michael Bay doesn't like Transformers. Zack Snyder doesn't like DC, and of course, Shusuke Kaneko doesn't like Gamera's. But instead of like declining the offer, they accept it and decide to
Again, you have not
change the
proven
whole
really
purpose.
anything that you've presented here. So unless you can actually support the claims that you've made, then I'm gonna keep interrupting the prefaces that are being made here.
Well, I don't think I'll ever find any other quotes of
If you can't
Kaneko's
find it, then maybe your
thoughts
assessment
on
of it
Gamera
doesn't make
or
sense.
Godzilla.
if you are unable to find quotes, then more than likely the idea that you are proposing doesn't make all that much sense then, possibly.
Okay, then.
But if you are if you want to keep prefacing your points, I will more than happily hear what else you want to say in the form of evidence, because I don't really, frankly, need a conclusion to my points.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay, fine. You win.
It's not a matter of winning. It's just a matter of looking at the points that you presented. And then from there, logically going through what we see from various sources, material, and coming to the conclusion that we have.
Okay.
But if you are conceding to the prompt, then I think it's more than time that we can open up the stream and get people on here. Do you want to stay on the stream, or do you think you're going to head off?
I'll stay on the stream for a little bit, but to conclude this debate overall, I do think while I can understand the ambition behind Kaneko's efforts into making his movies as great as possible, it had to come through the ultimate sacrifice of changing their characters. Now, I'm not saying you can change.
Not. So unless you're willing to support it with evidence, the claim that you're making makes quite literally no sense. Like, again, we can keep going through this, but the characters were definitely not sacrificed. That goes without saying. But if you want to actually support this point being made, we can keep doing that.
I just wanted to conclude this stream so we can let others in. I'm just
so you can conclude it, but trying to restate a claim that has really no basis in evidence is essentially pointless, to be frank.
All right. So while maybe I was wrong about how Godzilla and Gamera were portrayed in Kaneko's movies, but I still do think that there could have been still better ways to improve. I mean, just portray them in a still more consistent way. But overall, that's just my thoughts. And well, the winner of this debate is, of course, Zimzilla.
Alrighty.
All right.
I will start to bring people on. All I'll say is that
there's going to be so many people dogpiling on me. That's for sure.
Yes, keep the dog pile to a minimum. I understand that a lot of people want to come in and have things to say, but hold it back a little bit. That's all I frankly ask.
All right.
I know Black said I have the patience of a saint. If I have the patience of a saint, then I expect all of you to as well. I'll hold off on a minute. And we will probably go till about, let's just say 6:30. Let's go with that. There we go. We got Lau and we got Blackaroni in the house. How goes it? And the world of Minecraft.
Lower your microphone before you speak Minecraft world, because I know you're going to scream, so lower your microphone right now. Do it.
I Godzilla 2005.
I just calmed myself down for a bit. That was.
You have until we'll move it all the way to 6:45. We'll do that.
Since I'm the one that probably is like the most calm, can I go first?
Yes, you can go first.
Okay. So, by the way, Godzilla 2005. One of the things I wanted to clarify is that, like, even if you could prove that Kaneko doesn't like Gamera, that doesn't mean that he doesn't understand it, because anyone can dislike or like something that they understand. The same way that someone can dislike or like something that they don't understand, right? Because there's a lot of people that have very surface level readings on things, and they love them, right? And then maybe their opinion can change or whatever. So even if you could prove that he doesn't like Gamera, I think that you will have no point. Just I needed to point that out.
Still, I think that my problem is that Kaneko isn't like explicitly endorsing, like talking to the fans on if his if he's changed on like certain views, like because like Rei Kitamura has interviewed actual Godzilla fans, and while his opinions haven't changed, there are certain statements from him that does have Godzilla fans respecting him as a director, even if there are some people that still don't like Final Wars. But Kaneko hasn't done that. I don't know if Kaneko.
But the
You
thing
Once
is,
again, these were back in
want the
the
respect
director to
doesn't.
talk with the fans? You
2000s,
want the
so I don't know
director
if
to talk
Kaneko
like
One at a time.
directly
have.
interact? Okay.
What I was going to say is that
Yeah, I don't know if
respect is
Kaneko still
irrelevant
has.
to whether or not he understands it, right? Because you can understand Godzilla hate the fans, right? Because maybe you can think that the fans don't get it. For example, like you're always talking about how like MonsterVerse, the MonsterVerse is like bad and all of this. So like I don't think that Hanako, for example, if he started talking to fans of the MonsterVerse, suddenly that will prove anything about like how much he understands Godzilla or not. Like that's completely irrelevant.
And even still, like, since when in the history of ever have fans
Oh,
ever been entitled to talk to directors like about anything? Like, since when?
Exactly.
wait,
Yeah, that's
Zimzilla
true.
Sea Monster is here. Zimzilla Sea Monster is here.
Give me 1 sec. I'll bring him in just a moment. Let me just finish this
Okay.
match.
Yeah, I just want to know,
Yeah,
like,
I'm
since when has that ever been a case where fans can just demand to talk to directors and just have a conversation? They can just choose not to. Like, no,
And
that's
also,
ridiculous. And
also,
wait.
wait, before you reply to Blackaroni, I just wanted to say, like, Michael Daughtry, like, he talks to fans, and I think that his understanding of Godzilla is not necessarily like 100% there, at least from what he created, right? From this godhood thing that Godzilla never really had in this type of way before. Um, so I'm just saying, like, talking to fans doesn't really mean anything. Also, Wingard talks to fans way more than
oh
Kaneko, and
yeah,
I think that,
yeah, Death
he's
Note.
an abomination. Yeah.
Death Note. Y'all
Yeah.
remember when he interacted with the fans in regards to Death Note?
Okay,
Y'all
well,
remember how that
I
turned out?
Oh
think
god.
I think it's Michael Doggery and Adam Winker just being a bit um entitled to their movies, thinking their movies are perfect with no flaws
So then,
whatsoever.
if
But Rei
Kaneko, so no,
Kitamura,
no, 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 no,
when
no, no,
he
no, wait. Before you say anything more, would that's exactly what you want, though? Them talking to the fan base, them getting opinions from the fan base, and them looking at the fan base's own takes. Is that not what you want Kaneko to do? And in that case, is this not the result of that?
oh right,
As such, does this not prove that your
okay,
interest in the
I
fan base
misspoke.
being talked to is a bad idea?
Yeah, what an entitled position. Just to assume that fans can just demand to talk with directors. Like, it's a very entitled position, a very prideful one too. Like you gave them money, but like they can still make the product, and they can always choose to not make it.
It was that mentality that killed Star Wars. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm
I
gonna
wouldn't
take your
say
word
that.
for it.
I wouldn't say that's the case for why Star Wars died, but
it's a small part, but it's not like the main thing. I wouldn't say
it's possibly
either, right?
a part.
But at least it was in part the mentality that killed Star Wars.
I don't know about that, because if I
Yeah.
remember
What I would
correctly,
say,
it was not necessarily the interactions with the fans themselves. It was more so how fans were treated, because they were treated bad.
It's mainly like how the studio like sort of responded to the direction that they decided to take.
Yeah, it's not in this case. I wouldn't blame the fans. I would blame the directors.
So wait, I think I did. Okay, so I think I did misspoke. I think what I meant, like, I think the fans were asking Kinemura, like, how did the studios treat him when he was making the movie? And I think that's why people, like, fans, like, now respect Kitamura as a director now, even if some don't like Final Wars. But I don't think, but maybe that's why Doherty and Wingard are still not respected, because they either fans have never asked how was it like making the movies, or if when they did,
They have
how
though.
is this
Like,
relevant?
more dishonest.
not even like this doesn't even have to do with like Big Lizard in general. This also applies to Death Note, because he did the exact same thing with Death Note, and he got rightfully criticized for the movie that he made, because the movie was horrible. It disrespected Death Note and its legacy, and he just mocked the fans. And then after mocking the fans, he got death threats, and after the death threats, he decided to block his he decided to shut down his social media, and ever since then he hasn't interacted with any fans whatsoever, especially after the Monsterverse, which I'm pretty sure that those that have a modicum of a standard would absolutely dogpile him, rightfully so, because his movies are absolute garbage. But yeah, no, like, again, like, even if the good director made a good movie or a bad movie, us as fans are not entitled to demand that we speak to him, right? He has the right to choose whether he wants to speak to people or not. That's just, like, why would you even want to demand that? Who cares?
Really? And just to bring it back, also, like, anyway, all of this is irrelevant to him understanding it or not.
I'm just like saying that maybe if they're interested, I'm not saying fans
clearly they're not if they haven't
to talk to us. I'm saying
if they haven't, then the directors aren't interested. So you kind of answered your own petition.
And them not being interested in talking to fans after they already made 3 movies, for example, in that case, or GNK, that doesn't prove anything. Like, it's still irrelevant. Them talking to fans doesn't change anything.
I know that if I ever made a movie or a book, I am not interacting with the people that watched it. I'm just going to interact with my friends that watched it, because I care more about their opinions than random people.
Yeah. The only times I would ever interact with a fan is if they gave genuine, like, writing critique on a work, like saying, hey, this thing is a plot hole. And even then, I would rather have a civilized discussion with that person. If I, for whatever reason, like, say, if Antediluvian Park gets off the ground and Paleo start ripping my ass, like I said earlier, I'm just going to say that wasn't the point and then shut everything down from there. That's it.
I don't know if I would start with. Yeah, I don't know if I would start with that's not the point, but I would go for something different.
No, but like,
you do you.
Accuracy was not the point, and leave it there.
Okay, yeah, see, that's better. That's better.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that's not the point. Accuracy was not the point. Leave it there.
All right, cool. See, now that's just, you got to be clear about these things. You know what I mean? You got to communicate clearly, and but overall, I'm going to be honest with you. This debate has been upsetting, and not in a good way.
Oh my god, this debate was.
This wasn't even a debate.
I mean, this wasn't
a debate. This was just an adult correcting a child. That's what it was. And call me mean about it. I don't care. I don't care. Like, this was terrible. This was like, I would call it punching down, but like, this was just kind of limply. Again, this is like a coughing baby versus nuclear bomb. This is the Vic situation all over again, except that Vic is more honest.
I genuinely just cannot believe that, like, after all the streams that we've done, wait, hold on, wait. Of all the with the dozens of streams that we've done, that all across Zim's channel, my channel, so on, like, the fact that Godzilla being representative of America, I'm sorry, come on, this is like, this is stuff that we've made fun of, like, other people for making claims on about that.
Yeah, and the actual debate itself was just completely unprofessional on his side. Not on Zim's. I don't think was very professional, but it was extremely.
05, that's not what you said yourself, but you misinterpreted Zim as saying such.
Yeah, exactly.
You came to the conclusion that Zim said such.
And Zim has said many times, like all of us said that, like, that's not the case. But I get what he was trying to say. Like, he wasn't really saying that he thought that he had found like a weak point in Sim's logic. So he was trying to say, well, if you're saying that, then you will be saying that it's America. Anyway, I think that was just like a
yeah.
I don't think
No
that's like
preparation of
Yeah.
points, no timestamps, no sources, no
like
no
if you like
citations, no quote, no
to get
nothing.
to like the whole thing about
There were
accuracy.
There were sources. The problem is The problem is they, one, counteracted his argument, or two, were utilized improperly, or both.
Yeah, like no preparation
Yeah,
whatsoever, no professionalism. It's just like,
Yeah,
wow. And what I find particularly, because this is something that I just find completely absurd, like or he presented a piece of evidence and then basically told Zim to look for it. Like, here's the evidence, look for it. Like, here's the link to the thing, you look for it. Yeah, as if he's not the guest in this scenario. Like, that is just straight up like extremely unprofessional.
This is like, and you say like I've sent you a 2-hour stream, but you don't have the timestamps for it. This is something that the timestamp thing is something I did with Mr. Who. Okay,
that's unacceptable.
You got to at the very least do that.
Preparation, like no preparation, it's unacceptable. Like, this isn't. It's unacceptable. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, like was there prep? What I like to know is, was there prep for this? Like, how much prep did you do?
Wait, let him speak. Wait, shh. No, 05, did you prep for this, Adam? There wasn't? Okay.
I didn't hear what he said. What did he say?
He said that he did not prep for this.
Well,
I know that he did
everything then.
I know that he did.
Well, now we just I wanted to make sure that everything.
So, I understand completely a lot of the criticisms y'all are leveling towards 05. In terms of what I feel 05 should be doing as takeaways from this is that in the future, if you want to do debates like this, and since, as you've said yourself, you are not the best at film criticism, coming prepared with screenshots, quotes, links, timestamps, etc. I am particularly not a stickler for that kind of decorum. I don't expect everyone to be as prepared as I am, but doing that only helps your points, as well as it just makes the audience as well more engendered to hear what it is that you have to say. The only problem that I have primarily with the points that you've raised is that you did not particularly qualify much of what you said and relied on the supposition itself to carry the point through, rather than actually explaining with some form of logic what it is that you are presenting, and then through your through line of logic explaining how you are correct in these assessments, which again, I'm not expecting everyone to do, but if you are planning for a debate, which I gave you ample time to plan for, as well as gave you the debate topic, would be something that you should be more mindful of in the future. Does that make sense?
All right, I'll start thinking about that. I'm usually a lazy person though, so
I can tell you this is that if you ever want to discuss something with people,
I don't take it.
I would say, like, I'll say this is that even if you are a lazy person, which I don't think is necessarily the case, I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying that you probably shouldn't come into it with the same amount of preparation that any of us would. But if you do care about film criticism and you care about this franchise, then you ought to prepare more. And I think, as harsh as everyone here is being, I believe that everyone here is giving these criticisms because they feel that these are proper things to do. And if you want to add to these kinds of discussions in a meaningful way, listening to them will only help you.
All right.
We can be mean, but this kind of stuff is, for us, we take it very seriously, because like
it's elementary. This shouldn't even have. like we shouldn't even be saying this stuff. This should be stuff that is just automatically assumed when you enter a debate. Like if you enter a debate to have a conversation, to talk with someone else about a topic that you feel like you are familiar with, if I were in a debate, I would naturally expect you to know enough about the debate. That's where I disagree with Zim. Like I would not be that lenient. I would absolutely expect you to know what you're talking about. If not, then what's the point of a debate instead of just dogpiling? That's the mistake that I did with Vic, because it's very clear. It's very clear that not only is he not the kind of person that is skilled at arguing these kinds of stuff or quantifying it or qualifying. Vic, I love the guy. He's a genuinely good guy, but he's not built for these kinds of things. He is the author and the consumer. He's not the critic. So that's fine, but then don't come into a debate. Simple as that. Like if you truly care, then you absolutely ought to learn these kinds of stuff. And I'm going to ask you a question, Godzilla 2005. Do you know what an argument is?
Yes, angry people yelling at each other and giving out some points and some statements.
No. Like you should be serious about this, because like, I know you're kind of like joking, but like,
I know you like to piss us off. It's genuinely,
I genuinely do think that's what an argument is. I'm not trying to piss you off. I'm actually being honest.
Oh my god! See, okay, so you see what I mean? Okay. You see what I mean? You don't even know what an argument is.
Okay, so your viewpoint of an argument, and I don't believe you that you're being genuine here. Your viewpoint of an argument, if we're taking you seriously here, is under a misconstrued mindset. So maybe try and fix that in future statement. An argument.
It's not even that. He just doesn't know the secondary definition, because there's a secondary definition, which is the one I'm using. He just doesn't know it.
Let me pull up the dictionary definition. An argument
already ahead of you.
Exchange.
Yeah, discussion in which disagreement is expressed, a debate. Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, an exchange of diverging or opposite views, typically heated or an angry one, though not always. Or a reason or set of reasons given within the aim of persuading others that an action or idea is correct or incorrect.
That's the one I'm talking about. The archaic definition: a reason or matter for dispute or contention. That's the one. Yeah. The last one you mentioned is the definition we're talking about. He didn't know what that was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even then, like the first definition, in terms of like two people, like talking with each other with opposite viewpoints, and they don't necessarily have to be angry. That's kind of like even then. Like this,
he's using the colloquial definition as if like words don't have multiple meanings.
I mean, what he was saying is like it's something like the scene. I keep saying that word. Like,
I know what he's saying.
Akin to the scene in Marriage Story. That's what he was thinking. That was like, or at least that's the depth. Never mind. Yeah.
I wanted to keep this open primarily because I had talked for so long, but I want to ask 05. Generally, when it comes to discussions of Godzilla, film criticisms, etc., what is it that you want to get out of these? That'll be my question.
Get out of these. What do you mean
discussions? Like, is it because you want to be a better film critic? Do you want to make some things? Like, what is it? Like, what is your end goal with?
Probably disprove some criticisms of several other critiques from other fans, like maybe trying to reason why do some fans like this but not this, even though it's the same thing, or something else, why they're fine with this change but not this change, even though the same change is really that drastic. That's what I'm trying to do here.
Okay.
Devil's advocate. He wants to be devil's advocate.
No, it's not devil's advocate. That'd be if he's arguing specifically for just contrary positions. But yes, in this case, 05, I think that you are someone who generally has certain opinions about these films. I think that it's very clear to everyone here that you do not necessarily have a very structured line of reasoning, rhetoric behind what is you're trying to present. And I think that what I expect, at least in this case here, and I'd expect this from everyone else here, both on stream right now as well as viewing it is that my patience generally comes from the fact that I do not expect everyone, even people who watch me, to be coming in with the same level of knowledge that I have, or even the same understanding of rhetoric back and forth that I do, because I am purely here because I enjoy the discussion. As much as I vehemently disagree with everything that you've said, I think that if you genuinely want to learn more as well as expand your ability to critique these things and improve, then spend more time on the server, less time trying to give hot takes, but actually talking with people to go through where your logic either breaks or where you're coming at it from a wrong angle, asking about sources. I think generally any of us here, if you ask like, hey, can you find me a source for this? I want to create a better argument about this or that. If they have the time, I'm more than willing to help you.
All right, then.
I want to ask one last thing. Do you know
everyone
what a
gets one
fallacy
last
is?
Everyone gets one last thing. So Black, that's yours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what a fallacy is?
No.
You don't know what a fallacy. Okay. All right. Doesn't know what a fallacy is.
Okay, Lau, yours.
Can someone else go first? Like, since other people are like more passionate about it.
Minecraft, yours.
I really just don't have anything to say. I'm just processing this entire thing. All I really want to say is this. Well, okay. All I really want to close out with is this was an absolute roller coaster for better and for worse.
Okay.
I saw you guys getting angry at my takes.
And you didn't for once ask why? You didn't like question why?
Black.
I care a lot about camera. So.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'm up.
You are up.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, if you are going to debate with someone or have like a discussion, if you will, and you want to like make like the best argument you can, like even just a day of prep to like even just gathering like whatever sources you have, like whatever quotes, like if you can find them, like even a day would make all the difference. So yeah, that's all it's about. Yeah, just like it's better to do that than have no prep do no prep time for it at all. That's kind of what it boils down to. One day. One.
All right.
Lau?
Okay, yeah. I don't really have like much to say. It's just like a little advice, I guess. And by the way, like of course you don't have to listen to me, and I'm not really expecting you to, because it's easy talking to someone, but it's like hard, like caring about what they're telling you sometimes. So you should like really stop mirroring your opinions, in the sense that like it's not like you hear someone saying something and you immediately like decide, oh my god, they're right. Like you should just, if you agree with someone else's point, you don't necessarily need to make it yours immediately, because I feel like this is what you do with some things. You hear someone say something, it sounds really smart in the surface level, and you kind of roll with it, and like then when you have to like defend it, you don't have a way to do it because the opinion never made sense. You just listened to it, you heard it, and you thought that it sounded fine enough, right? So like you can have your opinions and stuff, like, but you don't need to like make it public sometimes, unless you really know what you're talking about, unless you have like thought about how would I debate against this, how would I think if I disagreed with this, like it's okay if you don't want to think about those things, but it's also fine then if you don't want to think too deeply about it, that you don't necessarily like go, hey guys, this is my opinion on this, like it's not necessary, but it's not wrong to have an opinion that maybe you don't understand. Just like give it some time, and if you're like more well versed on it, then you can like talk to people about it, but you shouldn't just like say the first thing that you hear and just repeat it. That's all.
All right.
Okay. There you go. Anything that you want to give as your last 0.05 before we close out?
Are we ending the stream?
Yeah, we're hitting about 3 hours, and I think everyone's kind of said what they've wanted to say for the most part about this. So,
okay, so I will say, yeah, you are right. I don't really have prep time, and I definitely do have my own opinions. By letting Zimzilla win, I'm not saying I agree with him. I just can see where he's coming from. I still do think what I think, and we are just all entitled to that. So yeah, our own opinions.
alrighty. Any last things anyone wants to say before I end this off?
Superman debate is on Thursday.
This Thursday?
You mean? I thought you mean Friday.
Oh yeah, no, Friday. Sorry, it's the 17th. It's on
the
17th.
Yeah.
Oh, you suck. I was like, oh, it's on Thursday, and I'm off Thursday, so now I'm like,
yeah. Sorry if I cut you off, but yeah, that's kind of why I've sort of delayed my next stream until like the 31st, so I can kind of just cool off from the Superman stream.
And I gave the film a rewatch yesterday. Same with the Christopher Reeves one the day before. I have notes. All I'm gonna say is I'm ready. I think.
Alrighty, awesome. And yeah, this has been a fun stream. Again, if anyone is interested in doing something similar where it will always be me solo, you solo, or if you want to bring a friend, you're always entitled to bring a friend. I always go solo on these, and then we open up the stream to end off. Yeah, no, you well, yeah, we're not, what are we, acquaintances, slaves? No, we're not. Well, I'm not a slave. Black. But yeah, so enjoy the rest of your night, guys. I thank you so much for the view counts that I saw with the consecutive viewers in the chat, and still going right now. I'm really awesome. I'm really happy to see that. Thank you all for showing up, and remember, kids.
Semper Fi, motherfucker.